And we are live. Hello, everybody, and thank you all for joining me. I see we have some friends out there in the chat, and as you can see, I have a very special guest. So glad she's back with joining me again. We have, from the Sabby Sabs show, Doobie Doobie Doo, one of the members of the RBN network. Shout out to all of them over there. You guys are doing great work. I heard you guys just hit your 15K, so proud of you for doing that. We have Sabby here, Sabrina Salvati. I watch her all the time. Thank you for joining me, Sabrina.
Thanks so much for having me on, Marcus. This is great.
Well, yeah, I definitely wanted to have you on, and I feel like the last couple of times I've had you on, it was part of a panel. The other time, I'm always on with a panel, and I was like, I need to get Sabrina on so, we could just let her just go and be able to just wreck shop. So I wanted to start off with some of the stuff that I've recently saw you get into, as far as I guess first I'll get this one out of the way because it's been hilarious when you were going in about Nomiki Konst. and your analysis on what's been going on with her has been so spot on, especially with her going on Fox News and all that, how they've been using her. So I was wondering, what caught your attention to that story? And and just elaborate a little bit more your thoughts on it for some of the people who of my audience who might not have heard that perspective.
So I actually saw something about it on Twitter about her kind of ranting at podcasters instead of holding politicians accountable, right? And this isn't something that's new for her or the rest of them on Majority Report. They're willing to blame anyone else except for the politicians, particularly progressive politicians that they supported, and a lot of us supported back then, instead of holding them accountable. So one of the things I think that frustrated me is that she was blaming, Crystal Ball, and I get it. Listen, I have criticism of Crystal Ball as well. Don't get me wrong, I do think this was more of a opportunist, event for Crystal Ball. So I do understand that. But at the same time, she was blaming Crystal Ball for dividing the left or destroying the movement per se. And it was never Crystal Ball's movement. It was Bernie Sanders' movement. Then she went on in that same discussion to blame Jimmy Dore, random accounts, as she referred to them as. She's talking about the smaller channels, by the way, that have been on Jimmy Dore. And then she threw Aaron Mate in there at the end. And it was just really strange. I'm like, Aaron Mate had nothing to do with that Amazon story. So it's just very obvious to me she's willing to blame anybody except for the progressives who are in office that are not doing their job. When she goes on to Fox News and they asked her questions about Hunter Biden's laptop, she wanted to blame Donald Trump. And Donald Trump is not president anymore. I've seen her do this multiple times on Fox News. She didn't even answer the question. So I think it's very disingenuous to say that you're a journalist or a commentator and just to pretend like nothing is going wrong with the Biden administration, to pretend like these progressives in office are not doing anything wrong. And one of the things I think that frustrated me, particularly about the AOC and the Amazon situation, she pretended like AOC did not ghost that event. And AOC said that she was going to be there and she did not show. So she ghosted Chris Smalls and the other volunteers. And she also lied and said, well, Crystal Ball said that, this is how Chris Smalls feels. And Chris Smalls didn't make those statements. And that's also false because Gordon Sheraton interviewed Chris Smalls and the other organizers multiple times over the past couple of months, and including that event that AOC ghosted them at. And that is what they said. And he interviewed him again after they won and said, how do you feel about AOC? And he said, to hell with her. She don't deserve this moment. So it was really clear to me that Nomiki was just either flat out lying or she didn't do her research. Either way, both are wrong here. But when are these people, the Majority Report, Humanist Report, David Dole from the Rational National, when are they going to hold these progressives
David Pakman.
Exactly.
I mean, you're 100% correct. And another reason, I guess a little behind the baseball kind of thing, which people understand or might not know, is I knew exactly who that reporter for Fox News was, because growing up in Kansas City, she used to be a major anchor woman there. She was on KMBC 9 News, which is an ABC affiliate, and then she went over to Fox News. Her name was Harrison Faulkner. And so I've been very familiar with her for a long time, and it kind of surprised me when she went over to that angle. But another thing you said, I wanted to add on to this, that not only was Jordan Sheridan one of the people he was definitely, right there from the beginning, interviewing Christian Smalls, but also has gotten to the point where now he's been on MSNBC. And he's talked about it. And so for her to have the same talking points as most of the people on MSNBC and not understand that he's went on there and said, no, she basically ghosted us, and then turned that into an attack against all these other people, I thought was extremely disingenuous. I was wondering, still speaking on Nomiki for a minute. And if I'm not mistaken, didn't Sam Cedar try to come after you?
Yes, he's a clown. Like, honestly, I think a lot of times, like, I see in this space, there's a lot of privileged white leftists in this space. They think they know what they're talking about. Some of the times, half the times, they don't know what they're talking about. They try to speak for working class people and poor people. They're not working class. They're not poor. They don't know. And for a long time, we didn't have other people in this space that came from a different class. And so back then, when I started watching like left independent media, there weren't that many options.
True.
Now there's other options, and you have people like Nomiki Konst and David Dole, and like they've attacked us over at RBN. Like, who are these random people? Who are these new people? No, who the fuck are you? Because you've been lying to people for years. And the thing is, they just don't want other people in this space. You'll hear a lot of these people now starting to say there's too much content. There's too many people making podcasts now. That's a code phrase for they don't want you here. They want all the attention on their self. And I'm sorry, but I think we need to hear from different voices. We need to hear from people that are part of different class system. We need to hear from different races. We need to hear from different genders. There's not many women in this space. And I think they don't like that. They don't like people coming in, disrupting this space and exposing their grift and showing people who they really are.
Well, and on top of that, I would like to say that I feel not only do they not want us here, they don't like the fact of any other people. Well, for one, they don't like us to speak, for ourselves. They would prefer to filter what they learned in college or through the couple of Black people or activists that they've met, and then filter the message for us instead of letting us speak for ourselves. And the thing about it is you can't go to just one person here or there and then talk to them and then think you can speak for us. That doesn't work. I was wondering also, because I run into this problem. I will get people on Twitter, Facebook, whatever, who I say something and then they feel the need to try to downgrade what I say, ignore what I say, or just assume I obviously don't know what I'm talking about. And I'm just wondering, do you get that experience also? Because I know with your background, more than likely, in the collegiate arena, it's possible that maybe some people might say, oh, well, maybe she's educated, so we'll leave her alone. Or maybe it's just paleo me.
Most people that have been watching me for a long time, they know that I came from like education, but newer people don't. And so they'll try to trip me up and try to do a gotcha moment. And I'm like, no, I happen to know a lot about it because I was an academic advisor and I know a lot about the education system.
Mm-hmm.
Then that's when they'll get silent. But there's this assumption, and I don't think it just happens with newer commentators. I know Brianna Joy Gray has talked about this as well. There's this assumption that as a Black commentator or Black journalist that you're not informed. You don't know.
Yes.
So they think that they can get you with all these different gotcha moments. They don't do any research before they talk to you, don't know anything about your background. And Nico has experienced this as well. And so they think
Mm-hmm.
that they can get you and then they only just expose themselves. It's just ridiculous. There's a lack of respect for Black people in this space. And any Black person in
Mm-hmm.
this space will tell you the experiences that they had. I mean, I watched Sam Cedar disrespect Breonna Joy Gray, and
Yep.
she was a Harvard lawyer. So
Mm-hmm.
this goes to show you it really doesn't matter how educated you are as a Black person in this space. They have certain Black people that they consider to be okay to accept, and it's usually the same people. That's why you always see them have on Cornell West or Nina Turner. And to be honest, if Nina Turner wasn't a politician, they wouldn't have her on either.
Hell no.
No way. There's the certain ones that they've decided, okay, these are acceptable enough, and we consider them knowledgeable enough to bring on. And they're picky in particular about that as well, because you notice you don't really see them have many people on from Black Agenda Report. You
Mm-hmm.
don't see them. I mean, Danny Hyphon, for example,
Yeah.
very knowledgeable about foreign policy. Margaret Kimberly, very knowledgeable about foreign policy. You don't see
Mm-hmm.
them bring them on these shows either. They don't really want to bring on someone that's going to expose them for who they are, that's going to tell people the full story, because then that will cause a problem with their audience. So they have to keep up their talking points. And I think a lot of these older channels, I think they're running into a point right now where they're struggling a little bit. And I
Mm-hmm.
say this because I want people to notice, like, it's not so much about the number of subscribers. You have to pay attention to the views versus the number of subscribers. So you have some of these older channels, they have like hundreds and thousands of subs, but some of them getting the same amount of views as me and RBN.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that these people checked out on them. They checked out a long time ago, and these people just didn't unsubscribe. And they
Yeah.
know that. They know that and they get that. And people say a lot of things about Jimmy Dore, but right now, he's the one on the left getting the most views.
Well, yeah, and I'm glad that you brought up that about Jimmy Dore, because I have some people, they'll hop in my chat and they'll start wanting everybody to go on a Jimmy Dore bashing session. Now, do I have my issues with sometimes I feel Jimmy Dore doesn't give enough credit to some of the smaller content creators that might be talking about some of these issues? Yes. But the one thing that I recognize is without a big name like Jimmy Dore getting out some of these issues, they're not going to be heard about. So it doesn't matter if we were talking about them and we've been having these conversations, they're not going to hear our message. A lot of it because of, I feel, let's say, fine, I'm just going to go ahead and throw it out there. I feel racist practices by YouTube themselves by throttling back a lot of our content. And so therefore, sometimes it has to be filtered through the lens they like. And so my thing is, as long as you get the message, I don't care who delivers it. So that's why I don't have as much of a problem with Jimmy Dore, putting out some of the stuff that maybe he wasn't the first on it, but he's the first big name that's going to talk about it. And I noticed that with you guys over there at Revolutionary Blackout, they really, a lot of these other platforms do not like you, because I feel one reason exactly, you guys are the competition who are coming for them. I think about how hard it is sometimes to go in and remember all the people that you're subscribed to and then start ticking them off and say unsubscribe, unsubscribe, unsubscribe. And so it's easy to keep those in there. What I like to pay attention to is I pay attention to how many subscribers you have versus what's the percentage of your subscribers that are watching your content. And so it doesn't, like, say if you have 1,000 and you're only getting 70 views, that should tell you something about your content. I mean, so I feel like if you're doing well, you should be on average at least getting 20 to 30% of that audience over and over. If you're doing really good, like I'll see that you do, you're definitely in the 40 to 50 on a lot of views, and you're constantly increasing. Like I remember last time I was on your channel was about 3 months ago. Yep. You gained about close to 4,000 subscribers since then. I'm like, you are skyrocketing up. So I just, round of applause over there to you. I'm super impressed. I guess my next question I want to ask let's have a little bit of fun. And oh yeah, and I see we got a couple of friends out there. I wanted to shout out to them. We got SM Dom, and I know she's on your channel often. Oz Whistles. Let's see. A couple of my friends, Wesley Donovan, Matt Marks, Terry Conley. I can't shout out everybody, but hey, everybody, and I will definitely shout you guys out towards the end. But Obama goes back to the White House. and he goes back, and I mean, I don't think I need to really bring up the image, but there's this part which really sticks out to me, and I put it in the thumbnail, where Obama is like kind of, hey everybody, shaking hands, doing what Obama does, Mr. Popular Kid, and Joe Biden's hand is on his shoulder literally the whole time. Kamala, if you look at her face, Kamala's looking at him, at Obama, and like, yay, happy, and noticing the hand also. And kind of this weird, I don't really know if I should be like, yo, Barry, he's trying to get your attention, or be like, hey, Joe, why don't you just wait a minute? So she kind of got this little awkward thing. And Obama knows Joe Biden's hand is there. And he's just completely ignoring it. So I was wondering, like, what's your take and some of your thoughts seeing, that interaction?
I don't think that Obama considers Joe Biden relevant at this point, to be honest with you. I really don't. I remember when Joe Biden announced that he was going to run, Obama said, you don't have to do this, Joe. Like, Obama knew that Joe Biden wasn't the way to go. Like, I think that, a lot of this is theater as well. Every time the Democratic Party seems to hit some type of a struggle or whatever, they bring in Obama to try to fix things. And, I think back to the NBA strike, Obama got involved in that, and that really hurt a movement, because I felt like that really could have been successful, had they not listened to Obama. Obama came and spoke out against defund the police, although he got a lot of backlash for that, and I don't think he was expecting that. I don't think he was expecting that, and I think that he's supposed to be the one to come back in and remind people, hey, remember when you had a charismatic president that people liked? But I think, Obama's time has come and gone. And I think bringing him back anymore, it just doesn't, like, now, like when Obama comes back, I'm just like, man, will you just go away? But I think it points to the fact that Joe Biden, there is definitely some type of cognitive decline going on with Joe Biden.
Oh, yeah.
And you have people asking questions on Twitter, like, is Joe Biden really running the country right now? Like, who's really controlling things? Because he doesn't seem to be aware of what's going on. And I think that Obama was basically there again to help and boost Joe Biden to maybe help get those poll numbers up, which doesn't seem to be working or whatever. But I think this is a lost cause. Like, people have tuned out. We've gone through a pandemic. A lot of people lost their jobs. People were kicked off of unemployment. Student loan debt hasn't been canceled. Yeah, a lot of young people very angry about this situation. And I think people are just over it. So the trick that they used to use, bringing back Barack Obama, now they're trying to bring in Hillary, right, to give them that support and that boost. It's not working.
Well, I mean, and I completely agree with your assessment. I mean, now, in my opinion, I told you, like I said before the beginning, I'm just a little bit more cynical. I don't believe the presidents really have that much power anyway. I believe that they're a figurehead, and they are there to represent an illusion of power for us. But they need them to sway the population, to make you feel, a certain way. And I think Obama, part of that problem with not being able to have very many, content creators like us, having more of the African American, Black, whichever way people prefer to say it, because it doesn't really matter to me. But when you don't have our voices in the room, you don't have that criticism being able to come back. And what happens is you have those content creators like the Humanist Report, like the Kyle Kalinskis, that try to speak for us in those instances. And because Barack Obama's poll numbers appear good, and we all know what they can do with polling. It all depends on sample size and how you want to word things and all that. So you can make poll numbers look good. You can also say, well, this is of registered Black voters versus, so it's ways you can play with the poll numbers to make it look good. And I feel they will play on those types of numbers and then say, well, of course he's still popular with the Black community. And I'm like, is he really though? If you heard more Black content creators, I highly doubt you would hear that same kind of discussion. And you would actually see many times that we push back on him far more than anybody else. I mean, I'd say even more than the Republicans a lot of times, especially right now. And so, yes, the decline of Obama's popularity, I felt started, quite a while ago, but it's not being recognized because we don't have our voices being added into the conversation. What do you think about that?
Right. I think a lot of those polls reflect the older generation, particularly like Black older voters. I don't see them polling. I mean, I've never been polled. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've never been polled. Are they polling people that live in the inner city and the projects in Black neighborhoods that don't vote? Probably not. Right.
Well, you got to have a landline most of the time.
Exactly. And most people in my generation don't have a landline. Like, what is that? So it's just.
And in percentage wise, most people who do have landlines are homeowners. So then that adds an extra category that you're looking into. So it's normally going to be older Black voters who own a home who still have a landline. That number gets very small of the basis of people you're talking to most of the time. And a lot of times they're much older.
Yep. And I think what people may not realize too is that, yes, there was, young Black voters that did come out and vote for Joe Biden, but that was more so a vote against Donald Trump. This time around, what is going to be the excuse this time? Because I can tell you, like, some of the people I've talked to that live in Atlanta are not too happy with Joe Biden after they were promised $2,000 checks, after he promised that he would get rid of student loans for HBCU students. Not too happy with him. And if there's no Trump this next time around, like, honestly, like, even if there is a Trump the next time around, I don't see Joe Biden winning in 2024. I don't know, even if they put someone in that place, they're talking about Pete Buttigieg, they're talking about Hillary Clinton, they're talking about Kamala. None of those people are going to win. And I think what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to play up identity politics. Let us get Kamala Harris so we can say she's the first Black female president, or let us get Pete Buttigieg so we can say he's the first, openly, I say openly because, openly gay president, or they're going to try to do that. And I don't think that's going to work this time around. I think people economically are depressed, financially depressed. Like, people see that their material conditions are not being met. So the identity politics is not really going to hold weight the way that it has before in the past. And I think a lot of that has to do with the pandemic.
Yeah, well, I think the pandemic, what it did, as far as just on a conscious level, I feel like it helped a lot of people look up and just be able to reassess what's going on actually around them. And I feel, especially, I would say in the Black community in particular, not only are we economically depressed, I feel just mentally and hopes-wise depressed. I mean, how in this day and age do we still have all of the conditions that we've been dealing with forever in a blue moon, which me and Chris are going to talk about later on the show. But I guess I can, ask you some of your thoughts a little bit about this. MLK, if he were alive today, do you feel like he would still be kind of more in the activist lane? Do you feel he would have kind of capitulated and turned into the John Lewises and the Clyburns and, or the Jesse Jacksons right there, kind of toting the line? Or you feel like he would have been a little bit more fiery and more against, or maybe even more fiery than a lot of people think, maybe like the earlier Malcolm X. I mean, I kind of lean more towards that. Sorry about that. I kind of lean more towards the latter, that he would have been more pessimistic about a lot of the things that are going on, and more pessimistic about this far out. This is all we've gotten to. Basically, it's like, okay, it's cool for Black and white people to just be in the same buildings and stuff like that, and you guys can all hang out together. But as far as anything economic, yeah, dead all that.
I think if MLK was alive today, I don't think the Black community would have embraced neoliberalism the way that it did. That's why they had to get rid of him. Because you get into the 80s, neoliberalism comes about, Ronald Reagan, trying to tell everybody that, oh, we have this trickle down economics, and a lot of people bought into that. Obviously, that is not the way that it works out for people. But I honestly think that if Dr. King were alive today, I don't think the Black community would have bought into neoliberalism. And I think that's one of the most significant mistakes I think the Black community made, because buying into that philosophy of, Ronald Reagan's teachings, and not just Ronald Reagan, but everybody that came after him, Bill Clinton, all of them, that yes, capitalism and free market is great, and you can do great by yourself, and all the money will be at the top, but it'll trickle down to the bottom. It destroyed communities. It destroyed like people's ability to get out of poverty, for one. That it didn't. It definitely didn't trickle down into the poor areas in the United States, and this is why poverty is a cycle. People have a hard time getting out of poverty. A lot of times, you get help from someone else to get you out, right? But I really think Martin Luther King would have said, no, don't buy into the neoliberalism, because one of the things he kept continuing to tell people is that you have to be very careful about the white moderate. And Dr. King was, assassinated. He was taken out. And then that made way for neoliberalism. And people forgot some of the teachings that he said. And then you go to the school systems where they watered down his history and his legacy. So then the newer generations going through the education system didn't realize some of these things that Martin Luther King said. They went from fighting for civil rights to I have a dream to he died and everything was fine. Leaving out that Dr. King was anti-capitalist. Leaving out a lot of these things that I think was really important for people to know. So they watered down, they whitewashed people like MLK and Malcolm X. And so that gave way for people to accept that capitalism was a good thing, and that all you had to do was do the right thing, follow the steps, do well in school, get into college, and you'll be successful too. And we see that's not the case. That's not necessarily the case. So not having, I think, that generational wealth really hurt Black Americans in this country. And I just think that if Dr. King were alive today, I think things politically would be very different.
Yes, I mean, I completely agree. I don't think we have that conversation nearly enough in thinking about, like, what if some of these leaders, Martin Luther King were still alive, Malcolm X, Medgar Evers. There's so many that we could go. Philip Randolph. I mean, so many that we could go down this list of inspirational thinkers. The Huey P. Newtons, all of them, how they contributed to just the psyche of the Black community and a certain level of empowerment and mental stability and freedom that we could start seeing other avenues to kind of get out of some of the conundrums that we find ourselves in today. I mean, I think you're right. That's a really good point, that the Black community wouldn't have probably fell into this. Because one thing I think about that always frustrates me is everybody talks about the I have a dream speech because it preaches about equality, which there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with it. That we should all be able to get along harmoniously, and it shouldn't be any kind of strife between Blacks and whites and Latinos, and none of that. We shouldn't have that. But when you sell us on only that one half of things, and then you ignore his mountaintop speech, that speech right there spoke of economic empowerment. And so the capitalist class was perfectly fine with basically identity politics all the way back to then, pushing for identity politics. Let's just get along here and get along there, and let's get a first black this and a first black female that, but let's not worry about changing these people's material condition, or let's not worry about rectifying any of the problems that we have, whether it be reparations, redlining, the criminal justice system, just like the whole no-knock warrant stuff with Amir Locke. And I wanted to bring that up because I know that's something that you talked about. And I had the same kind of gut-wrenching feelings that you had with the whole Amir Locke situation. For those who don't know who we're talking about, Amir Locke was the kid who was killed during the no-knock warrant by Minneapolis police. And they chose to not press charges on that. I guess, could you elaborate a little bit more on some of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so apparently there was a problem with the law. The law that they have in place there in Minnesota basically says that they can't charge them, which is interesting to me because they knew that before there were charges filed. So when they were talking about like, well, what can we do if the law says this? You change the law. Like this is common sense. So the problem that I have with this situation, besides the whole no-knock warrant, I don't think you should have no-knock warrants. They need to be outlawed across this country. But also the fact that the mayor of Minneapolis, what the hell is he doing? Like the mayor of Minneapolis, how many of these police brutality cases have to happen for someone to stand up and say, you need to step down? He has no control over the city. He has no control over the police department. And something needs to be said to Amy Klobuchar as well, because she is actually the reason. I don't know if everyone knows this. Amy Klobuchar is the reason why Derek Chauvin was still on the force and was able to kill George Floyd, because in 2006 she was the one that said, let him stay. He had a long history of police brutality incidents. And Amy Klobuchar did that because she takes money from the police unions. By the way, she's number 2 in the Senate for taking the most money from the police unions. And I'm going to tell you guys something that may, hurt some people's feelings. But Bernie Sanders is also on that list in the top 10, along with Joe Biden, of course, obviously. But this is what people really need to know and understand. Everything is working exactly the way it is designed to work. This is happening on purpose, and there's a reason why they're giving the police more money instead of defunding the police, because the police have been funding them. And nothing has been done. I don't see any kind of law change in place. These police officers, they're just running amok, and it's not just Minneapolis, but the fact is the mayor can actually make change when it comes to the police department. And the mayor of Minneapolis has been letting the police department do what they want to do. And he also takes money from the police department. Amir Locke was not a suspect. He had no criminal record. He had a gun that he actually had a permit. He was licensed to carry, and they killed him. And what angered me also is that there were more people focusing on, yay, we got our first Black female Supreme Court justice. And the same day those charges were dropped against those officers that killed Amir Locke. And there should have been way more attention on that story. But because the mainstream media used identity politics and brought your attention to the first Black woman, so many people I talked to didn't even know what happened with Amir Locke. And that's on purpose. And this is why I tell people, I'm like, okay, great. First Black female Supreme Court justice. What does that do for your community? Is your community still poor? Are people still dying in your community because they don't have health insurance? Are you still in debt? Like, what? Are you still living in poverty? What did this actually do for Black communities? Nothing. And you would have thought we would have learned this after President Obama, but here people are falling for this again. Nothing is going to improve because there's a Black face in a high place. Now, do I think that diversity is good? Yes, I think diversity is good. But I think it's important to pay attention to who are these diverse people that they're putting in these positions, and what are they going to do for the people? Ketanji Brown represents corporations. She protects capital. She's not protecting people.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, and it is kind of funny that you went straight into what I was going to ask you, and I mean, perfect segue, because that's what I felt about it. That this all falls back into, the neoliberal class is perfectly fine with identity politics. We'll give you guys your first black Supreme Court justice. Don't get me wrong. Like I told Sabby right before we started this, I have mixed feelings on it, because do I want us to have the first black Supreme Court, first female black Supreme Court justice? Yes. I mean, she makes only the third black Supreme Court justice that we've had in this nation's history. Why is that? And people could say, well, I mean, that's the reason why those people who just throw out flippantly that she did set history as no big deal completely, that kind of bothers me a little, because it's like, did Amy Coney Barrett do anything special that she needed to be on there? No. Did Kavanaugh do anything special that he needed to be on there? No. Did Gorsuch do anything special that he needed to be on there? None of these people who have been put on the Supreme Court recently were doing anything that justified them that they were so special to be on there. So I don't get the angst and the extreme criticism of having the first black woman on there. I'm like, hey, let's just kind of balance this down a little. Do it now. She's still a corporatist, like all of them are. All of them are corporatists that are going on there. You don't get to the Supreme Court unless you are going to play ball for the people at the top. Yeah, and that's how I see all of it. So anytime we're like, yay, we got the first black governor of this place or that place, what I think in the back of my head is, these people all play for a different class than us. And once they've made it to a certain level, they told themselves, I don't really care about my community. I'm not going to do very much for my community. And then I'll have like a lot of older Democrats, and they'll be like, man, you see what Jay-Z is doing now, and you see what this person's doing now. I'm like, but with the money that they have, they can eradicate poverty in our communities. But what do? They toss a couple of dollars at it. Somebody, I'm gonna have to DM it to you, but somebody will have to set you up with, when you brought up the Minneapolis, that mayor.
Mm-hmm.
My hometown, Kansas City, Jay-Z sent his Rockefeller team of lawyers down there, and they busted open this big corruption case that's been going on in Wyandotte County, where they've literally found actual Klansmen throughout, the unified government. And so these people throughout the police department, throughout the public defenders, throughout the, I believe even up to like the state AG. And so all of these people, and I used to wonder, like, we would see them sometimes, the police department, and they would be kind of, doing their little drills and working out and stuff. And you'll see them, marching around and doing whatever little crap they're doing. Anyway, you look over there, and I'm like, okay, our county is about 35% black, which I know to some people that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you live in certain areas, like around here in California, you're dealing with about 14% for the whole entire state. So 30 plus percent is a pretty healthy number. You're dealing with about 35%. And you look over there, and out of 100 officers or 100 future officers or cadets, you see 2 black people. You see about 3 Latinos, when there's roughly about 25% Latinos in that area also. And so, that's kind of a little side issue, but yeah, I mean, I want you to talk to her about the corruption and things that they found. And I feel like that is going into what we have going on in all of these major cities, whether it's Kansas City, Minneapolis, Boston, out there where you are, or, and I believe you say you're from South Carolina also. I know down there in the South, it's the same kind of issues. I lived in North Florida, not that far away from South Carolina. And so I know how it can be in a lot of those police departments and things like that. Oh yeah, what else would I wanted to ask? Do you think that we're gonna have any other first this or first that, which they're gonna try to use to play on us? Because I feel like they're realizing Obama is not gonna help reform Biden's numbers. Um, you drop the first Black Supreme Court justice at the same time when you're dropping Amir Locke's case, so you can kind of give us some sugar with the crap that you're going to give us at the same time, which that's starting to become like a trend in the media. Oh, well, this great thing happened, which, well, not really that great. It's a mixed bag, but we're going to give you this to kind of cover up that we're going to screw you here. I mean, it kind of reminds me of a old Chris Rock joke. He was like, America is like the uncle that pays your way through college, but molested you. I mean, I mean, I don't know. That's how I see it. So, I mean, do you think we got anything else coming like that down the pike?
I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to do something else like that again before 2024. Right now, you hear the Democrats making all these kind of promises. You know, last year they weren't talking about Medicare for all. Now all of a sudden, people are talking about Medicare for all again.
Right.
It's midterms, right? So they're trying to get votes. They know they're most likely going to lose the House, and could probably be the Senate too. But basically, like, they're just trying to like get votes. And this is another reason why I want people to realize the reason why they were pushing so hard for the voting rights, which, by the way, I was telling people, if you look carefully at those bills, that was actually going to make it harder for people to vote for third party candidates. So the Voting Rights Act that they wanted to pass is basically to get you to vote Democrat. It's not to get you to come out and vote for whoever you want.
Yeah.
It's for you to vote for a Democrat. So the reason why they were really trying to push that and get that passed is because we're going into midterms now, and they know they're going to lose the House. They know right now Joe Biden's poll numbers are really low. That's why they were trying to push to get that passed. Did not happen, obviously. And I just think, like, at this point in time, I think the Democratic Party is a lost cause. But honestly, even if they lose, what I want people to realize is that their thing is to fundraise. That's what this is really about. So even if they lose, it doesn't matter because they're fundraising. They still get the money. And at the end of the day, when you have someone like Nancy Pelosi that's telling people that she wants a strong Republican Party, they're all on the same team. They're all corporatists. And this is why people like Ilhan Omar, AOC, which I think AOC is trying to become like Nancy Pelosi, to be honest with you. But the rest of the squad members, Ayanna Preston, Cori Bush, and the rest of them.
You are always stealing the words out of my mouth. I was literally about to ask you about that, but keep on going. You took my question.
They're never going to let them get any further than they are unless they play their game. And they realize that. So all of that fluff that they sold us when they were running and said they didn't care if they were a one-term congressperson. You see, they seem to care so much now because they are trying to get committee assignments and they are trying to get like these chair positions in the party. I think, once you get there, it's kind of like, you say you want to be one term, but then you get there and you see all the perks that you get. You see the salary that they get. Like, and if they can last for at least 5 years, they get a pension for the rest of their life. They get speaking fees, engagement fees. Like, most people are not going to pass that up. And I think that's a big part of it. And I think that some people are being a little bit naive about AOC. I want to remind people AOC interned for Ted Kennedy. That's not an easy internship to get. She already had political connections. So the story that we were told about AOC is though she was some bartender, Latina who grew up in the Bronx and she made it so you can make it too. That is not the story. AOC went to Boston University. I worked at Boston University. I know the schools in the zip codes that Boston University recruits from. So the kids that come from the Bronx that go to BU, they come from the math and science school. AOC grew up in the suburbs outside of the Bronx. She grew up in a suburban area, which, by the way, is pretty well off financially. Her father was the president of the architect company that he worked for. So
wow, I didn't know he was the president.
Oh, yeah, it was his company. Why didn't they tell you this? Why? Because that story doesn't sell. What's the story that's sold for Justice Democrats is a poor Latina girl who grew up in the Bronx, who happened to make it to get to BU. And here she is. She was a bartender. She was struggling. And now she's running for Congress. And by the way, another thing people don't know, AOC also had a startup. It wasn't just that she was just a bartender. And so this is the story that they tell you. This is what they sell you. So it's not even just mainstream media. Justice Democrats is also corrupt. They're taking dark money. The Sunshine Movement is taking money from George Soros. You can't trust these progressive organizations that the candidates are being supported by, because those organizations have been co-opted by billionaire money too. So
Yeah.
this is a problem. Working Families Party, that's another one you need to be careful about. They also take corrupt money.
Yep. I mean, and while you're going to throw that in there, let me throw out something that a lot of people don't realize. And they'll feel like, you know what? I'm going to a black university. I'm going to be separate. Do you know who started most of these black universities? Do most of you guys know? It was Rockefeller's wife. So that is, so it was literally started by a white woman. The NAACP was literally started by Jewish organizations. So when they were talking about these white liberals, it was always talking about that. Hey, even though we think that we're moving outside and we have NAACP and we have our black universities, we're still being controlled by the white liberals. And it doesn't matter if they're Jewish, they're German, they're Russian, whatever in this country. Black people were never actually getting ahead like we thought we were getting ahead. We were just given this illusion. And it's the same thing which spread it out throughout most of the other, minority groups and people who were in the lower classes. We're all given this illusion. That's the reason why they'll tell you, oh, well, you can go ahead and go into the Green Party and the Green Party is going to do this. But I guarantee you'll do a little digging and you'll find out some of these higher ups at the Green Party basically are throwing the game so that they can keep you from affecting the numbers for the Democratic Party and things like that. That's the reason why Bernie runs as an independent and then caucuses as a Democrat and plays this back and forth game. I mean, I believe it was early 90s or whatever. Might have been a little earlier than that. Franco would know for exact. But he basically agreed that he's going to do this little dog and pony show to sheep herd us in there, take all the angry energy that's against the Democratic Party, but are not going to go for the Republican Party, and find a way to channel that energy. And hey, we'll let you guys, vent and get all frustrated and do whatever you want and push really hard in the primaries. But when it comes to the general, time for you guys to shut up and go fall back in line and play your part. And remember, they're the real enemy. And don't worry about what we're doing right here. So I mean,
yep. And this goes into the networks too, because BET is not owned by a black person. Black News Channel, which was just shut down, was not owned by a black person. So just because you see black faces on those platforms and the channel was called Black or has Black in the title, that doesn't mean that it's a black person that's actually controlling the operations.
Well, a lot of people don't realize that. What is that? What is it? Dear White People show.
Yeah.
The main writers and all that actually is a white trans woman, because that's the same woman who had the big criticism against Dave Chappelle and got a lot of those things kickstarted on Twitter. And I'm like, it's coming back to white liberal over and over and over. And it's like, okay, let's get Joanne Reed on the air, and then she could, represent us. And a lot of I want to say, actually, it used to just be more the kind of boomer black people, but now it's the Generation X black people. It's that 50 to early 60s that's really jamming us up. They're the ones who are being the bigger obstructionists, because a lot of them now, they have their houses, they have their car, they're doing well. And so all they want to see now is, I'm tired of dealing with racism. So that's their only issue. So identity politics, seeing the first black this or the first black that or the first Latino this or the first openly gay this, that stuff is all they care about now, because their economic needs are taken care of. Well, as most of the, I guess technically I'm considered a millennial. Even I'm like one of those who, a couple of years back, they switched me from Gen X to millennial now because I'm a couple of months off. I was like, for like 20 years, 25 years, I was Generation X, and now I'm a millennial. So whatever. But the millennial Gen whatever it is below, I'm sorry, I apologize to those who are in that generation. I don't know it, but we're the ones who are getting jammed up all this. We're the ones who, a lot of them are not going to be owning a home. We're the ones who are living with our parents much longer. We're the ones who are, have this amazing amounts of debt that we're trying to dig ourselves out from. We are the ones dealing with this, while I listen to people like I remember Ryan Grimm saying, "Oh yeah, well, somebody was on the show and he was talking about how the guy said, yeah, it's tough to live off of 29,000 or 30,000 in New York or something." And Ryan's like, "Oh yeah, I did that before." Yeah, you did that, but how long ago, Ryan? and when you go back how long ago, you have to pay attention to inflation. Even if I compare what 20,000, to 10 years ago, 20,000 10 years ago is not even the same. And so when you start going back 20, 30 years ago, that's like, it used to always tick me off when I'd hear older people say, when I was your age, I only made $4 an hour. I'm like, yeah, you did, only $4 an hour. But you got to go into the context of understanding inflation. My grandparents on my mom's side, when they first moved from Oklahoma to Kansas City, their apartment was $4 a month. Yeah. They, what is it, like $1 would buy all their groceries for the week. I mean, and this is talking about in the what, I want to say in the 40s. So think by the 50s, inflation jumped. By the 60s, it jumped again. By the 70s, it jumped quite massively with like a lot of the gas stuff. And then every decade since, it's just been just going out the roof. So when people are like, you make $20 an hour, $20 an hour is not much in a lot of places. I mean, I live in LA County. and you live in Boston and Northeast. So I know, it's not cheap where you are. It's not cheap where I am. And sorry to go on my mini rant.
No, I was gonna say, I think one thing people have to realize too was like back during that time, people cooked more too.
Mm-hmm.
And like I try to cook as much as I can, but the reason why people did that is because they had the time to do it. They weren't, a lot of them, they weren't working till like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, like a lot of people are doing now. Some of them didn't have to have like multiple jobs. A lot of like Black boomers, especially back during that time, they were able to get a decent job without going to college. So not having to take out any type of student loans, but able to get a decent job that would still pay their bills. They were still able to get a house, and the wife could stay at home and do all the cooking and taking care of the kids and things like that. Not saying we need to go back to the wife doing those roles per se. But what I'm saying is they were able to make it off of one income. I don't know anyone. And like,
one income part. That's that part. That's the part.
Right. And like, I'm college educated and a lot of my friends are college educated. None of us can live off of one income. Like we have to, all of us and our spouses, like we have to work. So it has been a big change in reference to just being able to just make enough to get by. Like my generation, a lot of us, when I graduated from college, I had to move back in with my parents for a year and save money until I can get on my feet and make it, on my own. Even when it came time to significant purchases, a lot of times, like I had to go to my parents for help. I wasn't making that kind of money to just go buy a car or something like that. So my parents never had to deal with that. They never had to deal with going back to their
Mm-hmm.
parents and asking for help because things were so different. Inflation was different. The pay was different. Like they were able to do that now. And you look at the price of daycare now. Like I had a
Yeah.
friend, she decided to quit her job and stay at home because she had twins, stay at home. She said it'll be cheaper instead of paying for daycare. She was only able to do that a couple months before she had to go back to work because they just couldn't afford it. So then you got
Mm-hmm.
people paying $600, $900 a month for daycare. It's just, and that's just for one kid. So it's ridiculous how things have become. But I will sign off by saying this. I think there's a
Mm-hmm.
movie on Netflix that everyone should check out, and it's called Sorry to Bother You. It's a
Yes.
Boots Riley film.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good. Boots Riley, if you guys aren't familiar with him, he identifies as a communist. And I want you just to keep that in mind when you watch the film.
Yeah. Now I have to warn everybody. It's a part towards the end kind of traumatized me for a little bit, but
Okay.
yeah, I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. This movie changed real fast. But it is a really good movie. I mean, and thank you so much for being here and coming through, Sabby. I was wondering, and I guess I'll give you a good 5 minutes. What's something where, and I guess give people like your spill, what you want them to be focusing on, thinking about, perspectives, and also where they can find you.
Mm. I really want people to focus on honestly, like, let's just get out of this like two-party game. I think we need to focus more on direct action and mutual aid. If you're not familiar with mutual aid, check out Rome's
Yeah.
Rebellion on Revolutionary Blackout Network. Rome talks about mutual aid a lot. He'll actually be here with me in Boston, April 25th. We're doing the tour for the poor here, so you can learn how to do that and find out about that. And also, we have to learn how to support each other and people in our communities and stop hoping that these politicians are going to come in and save us. And what I mean by that is we need to learn how to start growing our own food. I did 2 segments
Mm-hmm.
on that on my channel where someone lives in an apartment and one grew up on a farm, so they showed you different ways of how to do it. We need to learn how to do that. We need to learn how to build. How many of us know how to build structures, right? You need to if you don't know how to build a fire, you need to learn how to build a fire. Like we have to learn how to take care of each other. And I think that's what's really going to make things work for us and last. And the more we pay attention to what we can do for each other in our community, the less we'll pay attention to the fact that these politicians continue to disappoint us. Because I think
Mm-hmm.
if you keep relying on them and hoping on them, I think you're just going to be really disappointed. But you guys can find me on YouTube. My channel is Sabby Sabs. I'm also on Rockfin with the same name. And if you just want audio versions, you can find me on Spotify and iHeartRadio.
Mm. Yes, definitely. And oh yeah, just a little tidbit to throw in there. I used to work in the gardens. So I used to do advising when I worked at Lowe's on, all kind of, how to grow things, supplies, different things like that. So no, I know a little something about plants and vegetation and growing stuff. And oh, that's right, I worked at True Green Kimlawn also, so I know a little bit about lawn and things like that too. So I can,
Awesome.
I know something about building stuff too. So I'm kind of more handy in ways like that. I tell people this kind of more technological world. I feel like a caveman sometimes in it. I work with my hands more. In the military, my official title would be an ordnance mechanic. So you know, that's just a fancy way of saying I play with bombs. But that said, it's so good to have you here. I was wondering, what else stuff that Revolutionary Blackout has going have coming up. Any things we should look for? Because I know every now and then you guys have those different summits and stuff over there.
Yeah, we love during the summits. At the end of April, we have an anti-imperialist summit that's going to be happening. It's a 3-day event that last weekend in April. We're getting some academics on that panel as well as people who are anti-imperialist activists abroad as well. That should be a really good summit, especially for those of you who, if you want to hear about like what's going on in some of these other countries and how the U.S. has been involved and has destroyed some of these countries, I think you should definitely tune into the Anti-Imperialist Summit. I think you're going to learn a lot.
All right. Well, thank you, Sabby. I will let you go right now. So thankful to have you on here. And oh yeah, I want to throw a shout out to those who are fans of Revolutionary Blackout. Tomorrow, I'll be on with JB. So we're gonna have a fun little conversation. JB cracks me up all the damn time. So I can't wait for that. But thank you, Sabby. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much. Bye, Marcus.
Bye. Hello, everybody. I'm just waiting on my brother and colleague, Mr. Cy Lawson, to hop in here. I saw him for a second. Hold on one second. Let me double check, see if he sent me anything. But I think I saw his face for a half a moment. And let me give him a call. You guys might get to hear him hear his ringtone. But yes, he just popped in a second ago. And then we'll get everything kick started. Oh, you like my shirt? Free-ish since 1864. All right, yeah. My brother wasn't quite ready yet, but he'll be in shortly. 1 minute, he'll be right in. Independent. Let me get into some of these comments. I'll try to. Alex says the shirt rocks. Thank you. Everyone, why are you watching YouTube? There we go. Independent Left News, and special shout out to Independent Left News. Today for this episode, and this is one of the first of many, the Political Matrix is streaming here on YouTube, but I want you guys to check us out on Independent Left News' channel. We are on Rockfin currently right now, so please get over there. Also, if you prefer, especially if you prefer Rockfin, get over there. We can start building more audience on that channel, and then it works out. We're going to start doing more and more over there, and then we can eventually try to work on getting ourselves out of the censorship that we deal with here on YouTube, especially since that they give us so much hell. And then you guys can actually hear me and Chris really get into some of the topics, how we want to get into them, where we have to always tiptoe, and you guys can hear more of what we actually have to say. I see Les Bones there. I see Wesley, my good brother. Yes, Sabby was on point. Extra Bulla says, Chris wondering why polo shirt he wants to wear, wondering which polo shirt he wants to wear tonight. Of course, he got to coordinate, of course. Thank you everybody who is new to checking out this channel, might have came over just because Sabby was over here. We appreciate you guys also, and hopefully you guys will drop through more often. We are very inclusive on our channel, so you guys can always write me on Twitter. You guys can leave it in the comment. What kind of stuff you guys want us to cover? What kind of issues that you don't feel are being talked about? And we're very responsive of it, even sometimes at the last minute. See one of our good friends who's in here often, SM Dahman. Let me jump back. Oz Whistles, Jira Brown. I dingo ate me baby. See Salgado. Kelly, of course. Thank you. Love you, Kelly. Who else do we have here? Saul Good. Mad Marxist, of course, good friend. I think I saw Uma in here. Baba Yaga Prepper. Popeye Sailor. Choosy Heretic. Yeah, my good friend there. Haven't saw you in a while, but good to see you. Terry Connolly. It's funny when I hear the name Terry Connolly, I think of the movie The Great White Hype. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it or not. But I think his name was Irish Terry Conklin. So it's kind of close. Who else do we have here? Atres, my good brother. I think that's all I see. Gray Walker. Sorry, Gray Walker. I didn't shout you out, but hey, here goes. Yes, a Marcus and Sabs collabo. Yes, I'd love to have more and more of those. If you guys know anybody else you would like me to interview, hey, let me know. I'll try to reach out to them. Nadia Yvette Chambers, and inflation numbers are rigged to look lower than they actually are. There is my brother, my partner in crime. You should have heard what Warren was getting on you already. He said Chris was trying to figure out which polo he wanted to wear tonight.
I suppose that was a good one, Warren. You know, he always got the jokes. I like that, man. What's going on, Marcus?
Oh, nothing much. Yeah. Did you catch some of the interview?
Yeah, I caught some of it. Like I was just getting back not too long ago, so I was like listening to some of it, but I did catch some of it though.
Good stuff. Yeah. And it was funny. SM, she was like, "You're black pilling us tonight," and I'm like, "Well, we got to talk about some of these issues. Most of these other shows aren't going to talk about it, and if they do talk about it, I'm talking about non-black shows. They don't talk about it, right? So we need to bring it up then and speak for ourselves and be a voice for ourselves. Tonight we're going to really get into some issues. So let me get this prepped and ready. Get this intro up. And then we can get started with the show. Well, what you been up to today, Chris? All right, here we go.
A question that you need an answer to. Hello, and thank you for joining me.
This is the Political Matrix.
Quote marks, because these words did not come from us.
Mostly kidding. Mostly.
Ham and the garlic aioli.
And then they're going to change the narrative to Black Lives Matter to all Black Lives Matter, and then they're going to talk about LGBT.
So I felt like I wanted to put a couple of clips together.
Seltzer all day long. I love that shit.
Doesn't matter where we are. We obviously came up in there.
You know how he treats them. He don't treat them nice at all. He real rough with them, and you was a good match.
Budget, so much more, are forming this weird cabal.
I think
Yeah, it's not. None of them are.
do the Chinese own part of that?
So he picked Masvidal. So I have Kobe tonight. Whether it's Biden, whether it's Obama, just sitting up there.
There are people in the Green Party that can organize. No, they can organize. They usually just get blackballed by their own party too.
Taking orders from the private industry here.
You know, like I say, people come on here, they can say stuff they don't normally say on their own shows, which is fine.
All right, and welcome to the show, The Political Matrix. I am your host, Young Morpheus. Well, I guess Chris just dropped out for a second. I see Tina has just dropped in. How are we doing tonight, Tina? Shadow Ben, you got me shut. It's a good look for you. I mean, hey, we all shill for something to an extent, right? Let's see. I would only my sister. Oh, ew. Yeah, I know. The only reason why Graham is still in there because it would look weird if I clipped it. So I told people, I said, if there are people in the intro that you guys aren't entirely in love with, think about it on any other major show. And I'm talking about an actual major show that you watch. They have all kind of people who come on the show all the time, man. I guarantee you, some of the people who come on the show with some of the other people who frequent the show do not entirely enjoy each other. So, I mean, that's kind of just a part of the game. And also just put it on there just for the fact of the information might still be good from the different perspectives, but, you know, it's not always about, you know, our personal feelings towards everybody. Matt Marx says, we know why term limits are abolished in China. Xi and Biden found Shangri-La. Looney Tunes, Graham. Yeah, I'm very disappointed with Graham. I've been very disappointed with him for a while, especially a lot of his takes as far as the whole COVID stuff. I was not a fan of that. Oh, I guess Chris will tell me what the issue was. Oh, send me the code. Oh, hold on one second. Let me send Chris the code. I guess he had a problem getting in. Just bear with me 1 second while I get that for him. And Chris. There we go. All right. And let's see. Yeah, I sent it to him, Variant. And welcome, Variant. How are we doing? Yeah, I want to get back up there to Kelly's comment there. Yes. Can we take a moment to celebrate Kansas win? Yes. Rock, chalk, J, Hawk. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Biggest, see, I just sent the code. Oh, shoot. Hold on a second. Oh, crap. That's what he was asking me. Duh. Hold on 1 second. All right. Hold on 1 second. 2, 1. You guys are getting some of the behind the scenes technical stuff. And I'm not a technical guy, believe it or not. There we go. That should be the one for you, sir, to get you in there. Yes, so tonight's show, we're going to talk a little bit about, we're going to talk a little bit more on, and some of the things that we talked about in Sabby's interview. I did want to talk about the confirmation of, oh, he's in, okay. I did want to talk a little bit about the confirmation of Ketanji Brown Jackson. We are going to talk a little bit more about MLK, well, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and was it a dream or was it a nightmare? Hey, Chris, there we go. You're back.
There we go. All right, we all good now. Go ahead, though.
Yeah, I was just giving them the topics. We're going to talk about more into that Amir Locke situation, how they dropped the charges for Amir Locke. We're going to get into, I guess we'll start off light. I'll ask you the same question which I asked Sabby. What do you think about Obama kind of getting ghosted a little bit by Biden? I mean, well, the other way around. Biden getting ghosted by Obama, how he was just kind of, I don't know. Did you see the clip at all?
You said that I see Obama?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw him in the White House. You know, as I said before, I think he was purposely placed there, right? He had his goal was like probably threefold, I think, at least I count. One, to shore up support or to show people that he's back in, you know, in the fight for the Affordable Care Act, right? Because, you know, it's election year.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be something that will most likely come up on the trail. So, you know, that was one part of it. The second part is to get some excitement amongst the Democratic Party because they can see their poll numbers. They're not blind. They can read online. They know that they're not doing so great with people like us, right? And the third thing was the psychological aspect of it, to get Obama back into the White House. Like, you know, they didn't get him in there to what's the word? They didn't put him in any other spot in the White House, right? They could have put him on the lawn or anywhere else. They put him in the Oval Office, right? Just because it has that effect on the people who really, really like him. You know what I'm saying? They're like, oh, the good days. Obama's back. You know? So I think it served a purpose for him being there.
I like here goes.
I don't know what's up with my internet right now. Go ahead, Marcus.
Yeah, I like here goes comment here. It says Biden's president status got cut as soon as Obama stepped in the room. Exactly. I mean, it's kind of like this. If there's a cooler, more popular person than you, then don't bring them in the same room with you. It's kind of that rule of thumb when you go out to the club, and if you got a group of friends who are more attractive than you are, be aware. Don't decide, let me go out tonight with all of my friends who look better than me. Because what happens? You become the ugly one. And that's kind of what happened between Obama and Biden. Even Biden is so horrible that even though Obama sucks right now, Obama looks great compared to Jim Crow Joe. Exactly. Yes, he is a zombie. Says yes. Oh yeah, there we go. Alex A.
And
Alex, come over to Rockfin, peeps. Come over to
Rockfin. Marcus, did you actually watch the video after Biden walked away from that from the podium when he just looked completely lost? Did you see that?
No, I didn't actually see it. Oh, are you frozen there? Good gracious, you are having some signal issues tonight. Chris, you still there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, as you can see, I don't know what's going on over here. For me, it's like super slow and like blurry as hell. But anyway, no, I'll try to find a video. Somebody could pull it up, put it in the chat. Biden, when he walked away from the podium, everybody else kind of walked towards Obama, right? They were flocking to him like flies to shit, right? Okay, cool, no problem. But Biden was like staring at the flag. He turned around, he did one of these, and he turned around, looked at the flag, and was just like stuck. And he turned back around to face towards the cameras. He wasn't directly looking at the camera, but at the same time, he just looked horrible.
Let me try to pull that up. That way we can kind of look at it at the same time because...
Oz said I got a lot of lag, so I'm going to try to bounce out and come right back in real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, and your side, like your camera is blurry. For Marcus is clear.
I'm going to put this on, and when I pull this up, I'm going to probably just put them on mute because I do not really care to hear any of the sound of any of that, what we will call propaganda, trying to seep into my brain. Let's go ahead and mute that BS right now. And so I guess until Chris gets back in here, we'll go through and let's do a little analysis section. So as we can see, everybody's clapping it up for just looking at Obama just pisses me off. I can't believe all the work I did for this guy here. I mean, look at him. It looks almost a little pathetic how he stands next to him. I mean, he's a decrepit version of what he was before. And he just looks like it's kind of like having the cool guy, and you just got that guy who just wants to be cool, so he just hangs around him like a little sucker the whole time. That's what it looks like. He looks like it, like he says, I'm still Obama's VP. No, you're Obama's bitch. That's what you are. And you look like it. And the sad thing about it is, if Obama wasn't running shit while he was in, and you're the second class to the person who ain't even running shit, what does that make you? I mean, that drops you to a whole nother level. Yes, this exposes the core cruelty in Obama. Yeah, I mean, he didn't have to be there and steal this guy's thunder, but I think he knows how much of a that he is. Said arms crossed in a definite cold shoulder. Yeah, well, look at the positioning. I didn't notice that. Let me stop that. Let me stop that right there. I don't know if you guys are noticing this, but if you just do a little bit of study in body analysis, right here, he's standing turned facing her back to Biden. Biden is standing looking completely forward, dazed and confused, like he's high on mushrooms or something, having no clue what's going on. And I don't think it's because Obama is turned in only because he's focusing on her. I do think he is giving the cold shoulder to Biden intentionally. Yes, Obama's like, I'm more presidential than you. Well, and I don't even think it's in a dismissive way. I think it's the fact that this gives off the fact that this guy right here on the left was never really a president. This guy was forced into office to stop Bernie because they felt like he just might possibly do something. I'm not going to give Bernie the credit to say he would have done much of anything. I just know that how the elites are, if they don't have 1000% control over you, because a lot of these people are complete control freaks, if they have that 1 degree that you might do something a little bit different than what they want, then they kick you out of the club. Like, don't get it, don't get it misconstrued. Trump, it was completely under control of the elites also. The only difference is occasionally he will have that 1% of the time where he'd do some stuff or say some stuff off cuff, which they didn't like. And so that was the issue that would come on a lot of times with him. Hamza Amir says, I was talking with Pasta, he'll interview RZA. Yeah, I mean, I hope that to see that pretty soon. I would enjoy that. Shoot, I'd like to interview him if there was a chance, but and whether you guys know it or not, I do try and reach out to a lot of different people. So if there's somebody out there that you guys told me to reach out to and I wasn't able to get them, then that was more than likely they decided just not to. Oh my goodness, that's so funny. Angelica PG says elder abuse is sad. Well, elder abuse would be sad if we weren't talking about this person here. I do feel bad when somebody is abusing the elderly, but when this person has caused as much death, destruction, and misery as this person has done, I don't feel very sad for them. I would be happier if he was, sitting in a cell somewhere. That would make me happy. Now, even when I can't even say what would be my cutoff to what would start making me feel sad for Joe Biden. Not very much, because as I see it, Joe Biden single-handedly has been the most destructive, politician, let alone president, to the Black and brown community. And I don't know if you guys know, just some of the comments that he's made, in 2008 about, the whole immigration issue. If you listen to a lot of things he said, he sounded a lot like Trump, if not worse. So that happened. And then we had the situation not that long ago that happened on the border with Haiti. I mean, just because he can have people who will dress up his statements a little bit better, and he'll do 1 or 2 things which virtual signal that he cares a little bit about different communities, does not mean that he's any different than having a Trump in there, than having Bush in there, than having Nixon, Reagan. All of these guys are all the same. Kama looks whiter in this video. Oh, dude. I'm gonna leave that one alone. Property taxes is just enslavement and abuse of the elderly. Well, if you property taxes, taxes, and I'm not going to go into my rant on taxes. Although I would just say this one thing: a lot of Americans don't realize that in many countries, once you buy your house paid for and covered. Taxes cannot relieve you of that house. And so you can be completely, you can no longer have a job, decide not to work, don't pay your utilities. That's one thing. But for them to be able to take your home, that's yours and you own that in most other countries, especially in Europe, where that's something that's different here in the States. Yes, Clinton does have a big hand in what's going on. Frankie Lee says, I've always hated him, and for very good reason. I mean, not only because a lot of people just like to go to the crime deal, or they like to separate or I don't want to say they like to separate, but a lot of times people have a disconnect between understanding that the Biden administration, well, not Biden administration, but Biden as a politician was there for every single one of these wars and invasions while he's been in office. He's been a war hawk on every side of things. So this Russia-Ukraine thing, how he's been on the side of pumping more money into Israel, how he's sanctions on Yemen, on all these different people, the stuff which Trump was doing against Venezuela, all of these things, Biden has always been hawkish against all these other countries. SD says, hi, everyone. Great you're having Sabby on. Terrible in and out of phone reception here. Hopefully better soon. Heard Pelosi is home sick with a very bad allergy to Taiwan. Very correct. Back onto my little mini rant about getting us up to date with Joe Biden. We got to remember, this is a guy who didn't only have, because I don't look at him as only Jim Crow Joe, because if you just put it as Jim Crow Joe, then that puts an emphasis only on his record with the Black community. Let's keep in mind, this guy doesn't like any minority communities, in my opinion, in my understanding, to what's going on with him. So, I mean, when we start looking at what the Iran-Contra, Joe Biden was one of the people who were right there. You got to remember, this guy's been on the Committee for Foreign Relations. This is some of the things which he's been involved in. It's funny that he becomes the one who puts the first Black woman on the Supreme Court. And then let's remember how he treated the last Black woman who was involved in hearings as far as a Supreme Court justice. And that would be Anita Hill. He allowed them to disrespect that woman and talk to her any kind of way. Joe Biden was right there alone cheerleading with Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton with the Sister Soldier moment. In every single way where the Democrats have been against minority communities, has been against, and I'm saying Black and brown as a whole. Now, they're kind of ironically, when it comes to visas for say India or something, okay, yeah, they've cared there, but that's only because they've been able to exploit the workforce and shipping jobs to them, shipping jobs to that nation because of the difference in our economic systems. Just like the same thing with NAFTA and them having no problem with a lot of the corporations leaving and being shifted over to China. These are things that people like that do and don't have a problem with, because they don't care about anything but U.S. dominance. And that U.S. dominance doesn't extend, it's not just talking about here in this country. It's talking about, belittling and controlling other nations also. Oz Whistle says cities have to resort to property taxes for the funding that the state and Fed refuse to give them. After that, I approve on progressive taxes to reduce wealth gaps. Well, the thing about it is the progressive taxation, a lot of times it's still set and rigged against us. If the progressive taxation was all inclusive, it wouldn't have things like, say, for somebody who makes $150,000, if you make your money through investments, or if you make your money through working, you're taxed at a different rate. For instance, even if you decide to donate to charity, your return of rate on donating to that charity is different. I honestly feel like, and this is kind of a catch-22. If you donate to charity, a donation should be a donation. Just let that be a donation. It shouldn't be, okay, I'm donating to try to get out of paying taxes, which that's a lot of times what it becomes with the wealthy. Praising the Lord, intangible, useful solution is not a conflict of interest, and it's better than just cursing the devil. Okay, interesting statement. Yes, Kamala is a white supremacist, which a lot of people don't know. Her grandfather on her father's side was an actual, well, I think it's like great grandfather, but plantation owner. So, you know, that's what she comes from. And yes, they'll never apologize for any of the stuff that they do. Pubic hairs on Coke bottles still makes me gag. Yeah, I mean, and what about the comments about her watching porn and stuff? With that, he gave her magazines and advised her on porn that she should watch, and they thought that was a perfect line of questioning, especially with her elderly parents sitting there. And there's a lot of things about that Anita Hill trial, which I feel people should go back into and look into, and it should infuriate all of us that this is the man which everybody tries to act like Trump is 10 times worse than, when you're looking at two peas in the pod and you're trying to tell us that they're different. That's the frustrating part for me. I'll hear people literally tell me, but I can't do that motherfucker Trump though. These motherfuckers are the same. If you hate one, you should hate them both. Yes, loopholes are inserted by lobbies. Yes, there's so much lobbying which goes on. Honestly, I honestly feel like lobbying almost should be illegal. I understand his record is horrible, and I do call Biden racist, classist, a war hawk, but clearly the Dems chose him for his role on purpose. I question if he will fulfill his full term. I've been questioning that for a while. Me and Chris were trying to figure out how long do we feel like he would last before he got into office, and I think he's getting close to the time which I said. I said 2 years, maybe 3 years. I don't see him going the whole first term. I'm not sure what Chris said. I'm having a hard time remembering. I'll have to dig back to one of those older conversations, try to figure out. Anita Hill recently seems mellow. Reed Thomas, of course, time heals wounds. A lot of times when different things happen to you, let time happen over the years, and a lot of times it's not nearly as bad. Yes, lobbyists do write the bills. NAFTA was far worse for Mexicans than Americans. Yes, it was. Well, I'm lobbying, and being a lobbyist is different. I mean, anybody could push for a cause, but literally sitting there and deciding to write bills is a little bit different than somebody who is paid to go there and spout a certain message. That's what I'm saying, the difference as far as lobbyists. Yes, Biden's only job was to defeat the socialists. That was mostly it. But then once they realized, oh crap, we can't put Elizabeth Warren in, we can't put this person in, Kamala's not going to win. They got stuck with the situation of crap. Now I guess we have to push all our chips behind Biden. The only problem with that is because Biden can't deliver once he got in the office, what you end up dealing with is almost a guarantee. So this is what I look at as kind of funny. Trump got in the office, they were furious. They had the blue wave. Blue wave goes in, pushes a lot of Republicans out. Good, right? You get Trump out. Good, right? But now what you've basically done is you've set up a situation to possibly lose even worse and end up in a worse situation than you were than when Trump first went into office, because of this knee-jerk reaction by the voting populace to fall into the Democrats' stupid calculations. And I say it as the Democrats' stupid calculations because you guys know I do see this on a much grander scheme or level. I feel politicians they're very transactional, and they think right here, and they can't see through this tunnel vision of the red versus blue gang. But the people who are pushing and pumping these people know that they're also that mentally limited. And so they understand that, yeah, the Democrats are going to push for this. This is what's going to happen. And then that's going to end up fulfilling what we ultimately want in the long run. And what I mean by that, ultimately want in the long run is they basically want whoever is going to fit the corporation's needs and desires the most. Corporations are going to fulfill what their shareholders want. Their shareholders are the people who are actually pushing the system. And that goes all the way up. And how we always talk about, you know, everything funneling up to the top. The only difference between where I see this top is a lot of people look at the top as being stopped with only, you know, the CEO level. I look at it as it goes much further than that. It doesn't only go to the CEO level. It has to go to the board of trustees and those people who are the shareholders of these boards. The CEOs a lot of times is the person who they just put in power for the time being. You have to look to these older corporations, you know, a lot of these banking institutions, and start seeing how far back the ties go. The founders of these different organizations, the people who are behind things like the what does it say? You have to look behind the people who are behind the I'm trying to think of what it's called, the Federal Reserve. When you start looking back to the people who actually own the Federal Reserve, who actually own the stakes in it, because make no mistake, there is people, actual people who own this. There are people who have stakes in all this. And what these people have learned how to do, just like a major crime boss learns how to do, is create shell companies. And the only difference is with these elites, their shell companies are real companies where they filter all of their things through. The only difference is they're not selling an illegal product. What they're doing is they're controlling things through legal organizations. It's the same way which, if you look into the syndicate, I don't know how many of you guys are fans of old mob movies and things like that. A lot of old mobsters, what they would do is their goal was to find some kind of organization to funnel their criminal activity in, to eventually, once they've gotten that criminal activity funneled into this this legalized business, they continue on with these same nefarious and criminal practices, but they do it on a they do it within the legal means. For instance, what's his name from West Virginia? Guys, help me with this. What's guy from West Virginia? Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin's daughter. The reason why EpiPens are so freaking high, that's the same kind of mentality in business. Thank you, Terry Connolly. The same kind of business practice which mobsters use. That's the same thing which that's literally, if you think about it, it's basically a form of extortion. This is what a lot of these people do. And all of these corporations do it this way. The only difference is now they found ways to legalize all the things which they used to do before, because even if you take, say, a criminal who moves into a small town, first thing he wants to do is buy off a couple of cops. Then after he's bought off a couple of cops, what's he going to do? Try to find a couple of judges also. Then what is he going to do after that? Try to get into the politicians, city councilmen, mayors, people who can make the things which they want to do legal. Once you get to that level, then you start going to the governor level. You can go to the governors and the senators to protect yourself. Just like a lot of these elites have done, you start factoring in century after century eventually you start getting all the way up to the level of these three individuals, which we have on the screen. Presidents, and possibly, I don't know how they'll work it. I have no clue at this point because I don't follow the day-to-day, but I wouldn't be surprised if some of those things, if they find a way to shoehorn this one in. That's the reason why I honestly believe you guys are still hearing Hillary Clinton's name out there often, because I believe that they're trying to find a way to push Hillary Clinton in there. Let me get to some of these comments. I ranted a little bit, but waiting on my brother to get in here. See, extra bullet. To be fair, the Republicans I know hate their leaders too. Of course they hate their leaders. The difference with the Republican Party, well, let's say, the difference with the Republican Party, especially as far as the primary is, a lot of these older voters on the Democratic side, they try to look to who is Team Blue. If you're Team Blue, you're okay. On the Republican side, they look for who is against Team Red. So if you go in and you say, hey, Mitch McConnell sucks, and Mitt Romney sucks, and Jeb Bush sucks, and George Bush sucks, that actually gets you credibility. Exactly, Gray Walker. They call them rhinos. That's exactly how they do it. You get ahead in the Republican Party by being for those same things. You want low taxes, and you want the Second Amendment, and you're against abortion. You fall for you check off all the boxes of what traditional Republicans say that they want. And then all you do is you say, I don't like this person, I don't like that person, I don't like this person. On the Democratic side, it's the complete opposite. You say, oh, well, I can get along with this person, and Obama is great. And the Clintons, they might have made some mistakes, but they're trying to do what's best for the people. They're far better than George Bush and all those other people. That's what you do. But you say, oh, but I just want to do things a little bit differently. I want to get us that $15 minimum wage, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. And so it's mostly virtue signaling. I don't do teams or clubs or cliques or any of that bullshit. If I vote for anybody ever again, it will be an independent candidate. Well, that's the thing. The way that they set this stuff up, they make sure that you are never going to get an independent candidate. For instance, the Green Party was on, I want to say, out of 50 states, I think I heard that they got themselves on 48 ballots. Yes, they got on 48 ballots, but what happens? They're able to be corrupted from the inside. A lot of people wanted Dario Hunter instead of Howie Hawkins. A lot of people wanted to see them bring in a Jesse Ventura so that they can bring more attention onto the Green Party. Because even if they get on all 50 ballots, they're not going to win. But the goal is, if you can get more attention, then you can start to increase that margin share, and you can force one of the major parties to have to listen to what you're saying. If they can make sure that you never get to that percentage, that you're even, if you can never get to that Ralph Nader level, never, like, for instance, they're not letting another Ross Perot come along. Those days are not going to happen. And the only reason why he was able to get through to the level he was, because they never factored in, oh crap, some billionaire could just hop right in here. And if we don't take them seriously, then they can actually, tilt the scales one way or the other. So if we've decided this year that we wanted candidate A instead of candidate B, they can make sure it's candidate B instead of A. So they don't let any individual third party be able to rise up. It's the same thing with all of these other parties, whether it's the People's Party or, I don't even try to find out the names. DSA. I don't try to find out the names of any of them anymore, because this is the same thing. They've already worked this out on stopping the Green Party. So any other third party, which you're going to try to hop into, they're going to cut them off at the knees before they even let them get going. The best thing that you can do, like Sabby brought up earlier, is you got to start trying to do direct action. You got to start trying to do like some of the stuff which Rome is doing over there. You got to start trying to figure out means outside of the community. Even if you say, well, let's do ranked choice voting. Well, the problem is, if you be honest with yourself, how many of the candidates on that ranked choice voting list are going to do anything anyway? I mean, yeah, that sounds good, but if choice A sucks, choice B sucks, choice C sucks, what does it matter? It's the same thing with the voting right things, which Biden tried to wait and figure, oh, well, I didn't do anything for the black vote. Oh, shit. Well, let me try to do something now. Let me get this meaningless voting rights bill passed. And it is meaningless. I know some black voters don't want to hear this because they don't want to think that, man, our ancestors went through all this to get the right to vote for it not to matter. But I'm sorry. The fact of the matter is it doesn't. And that shouldn't, you can't let that completely bum yourself out. What you have to realize is, okay, that's not going to work. Okay, damn, that sucks. Okay, try to figure out another angle then. But trying to double down on something that's not working is not going to change the fact that it's not working. And all you're doing is lying to yourself, wasting time, money, and effort instead of trying to improve yourself in other ways. Was that one kid? His name was King Randall. I don't necessarily agree with some of his takes and his perspectives on things, but he's literally out there taking care of his community and actually helping young black men actually get off the streets and start doing things and start helping and improving. And I don't have to agree with all of his views as long as he's doing something to actually help out his community and giving younger men like himself, or men younger than him, an opportunity that many around us didn't have. Let's see, let me get into some of these comments. Yes, direct action, mutual aid equals solutions. That's the reason why, like I say all the time, the revolutionary blackout, I'm just more cynical than they are. And I'm not going to ever fault anybody for having hope. I mean, how does that look? But I am with them 100% as far as mutual aid. I'm with them 100% as far as trying to figure out means and solutions outside of this system. If people feel like they need to protest, fine, I'm with that. If you want to try to figure out, but if you're trying to do it through the electoral process, that's where I feel like you're wasting your time. And I don't mean that disrespectfully or negatively to anybody. Let's see. Gray Walker, let's see, let me put that on the screen. Said joining a third party gives them strength. If a third party had double-digit percentage membership, they could be silenced easily. They couldn't be silenced easily. Well, here's the thing. They're never going to let that happen. You got to remember, you remember, what was it, Kashrama Shawant? They dumped $1 million into her city council race. They're paying attention all the way, micro-focused all the way down throughout the third parties and everything. If you think that these elites they've been doing this for a couple hundred years, and some of these elite families go all the way back to Europe for thousands of years. The threats might change, but they understand how to cut the knees off of any threats that are coming up. Let's see. Say, are you the same? Let's see. Yeah, we are all on our own. That's what we have to see. My brother Shadow, what you got here? Says maybe the United States should be abolished and we should quit voting for institution designed to enslave and kill us. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong, but I look at it like this. If something isn't done soon for those who want to keep this continent intact, better do something about reeling in some of these leaders in some kind of way. And some of it is, if you can't put in the leader or leaders to change things, you can subtract. You can be a force to not give people power. So those who feel like I heard Sam Cedar made this dumb argument. Well, AOC's the most leftist there, so that's why I'm going to vote for it. That's stupid. That's stupid. It's like saying, you know what? All of these people will plan to murder me, but this one is only going to like slowly stab me to death. I'd rather take that one. That's a dumb logic. Don't deal with any of them that are trying to stab you to death or beat you to death or shoot you to death. That's that lesser of two evils idiocy. Voting doesn't make them work for it, because I'll tell you why voting doesn't make them work for it. The reason why is, just like in New York, what they'll do is they rig primaries. They rig things to, even if it drops down to 1,000 people, they're going to make sure that their candidate gets in there, and they have enough money to be able to all of a sudden, oh, this sex scandal on, trying to think of who's somebody that happened to, Shahid Buttar. That happened with Shahid Buttar. Sex scandal comes up all of a sudden. Embezzlement comes up all of a sudden. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. That's what they're going to do. Any of your candidates, they're going to tear them down. Even the so-called AOCs, and I look at it like this: the people that they're putting in front of you are meant to give you this limited option. I'm not Baba Yaga. I'm not saying that RBN does believe in electoral politics. That's not what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm not putting that on. I'm not putting that on them. I'm even more pessimistic than most people on any changing this system. I believe that this system, because see, a lot of people think, well, it's just about the capitalists. And if we change to communists, or we change to this, or we change to that, that's what we want to say. I'm more cynical. I believe that these elites have controlled this for thousands of years. And what they do is, whether it goes from feudalism into capitalism, into communism, into democratic socialism, whatever you want to call it, these are still the same people who are controlling it. All they're doing is changing hats and jerseys to make you feel like something is actually changing. But all they do is change. They change their stripes and make it look like you're getting somewhere. I mean, what we're going to talk about, Chris, we're going to talk about MLK's vision. If you look at on the numbers economically, Black people are doing worse on average than during King's era. So was it actually successful? Yeah, he's made it where a Black guy can have a white friend and interracial relationships work, and all that's fine. But as far as economically change anything, no. Think about it. Redlining was something that came out after King. Think about it. During King's time, there were the dollar floated around Black community far more. That's things that have changed for negatively. Yes, Here Goes says, I've seen the future and it's hopeless. Tupac. I mean, I guess possibly because I grew up in the hood and watched the hood deteriorate. Some of you guys who are maybe my age or maybe a little bit older, you guys remember when, some neighborhoods used to walk around and leave the doors unlocked. To now you go to some of these same neighborhoods, now you got bars on the windows. And I don't think we look at things in the context of time, how they're changing, how they're evolving. And are they evolving in a positive way? I would say no. That's the difference. Yes, I'm the government and I'm here to help you. There we go. There we go. That's a good topic to hop into. Domin talks about the bloodlines. Yes, we don't understand these bloodlines. A lot of people were thinking Kennedy was somebody new. Kennedy's not new. Kennedy's family goes to the O'Brien Ophion Canades, which eventually became Kennedys. It's an old Irish royal family. goes back thousands of years. The Bushes, their family goes back and back and back. A lot of these people, money goes back a long, long freaking way. This isn't like, oh, well, everything is changing and there's a new system that's no, it's all the same. Yeah, voting says and voting is harder to rig at a local and state levels. Yes, but once you get to it, but here's the thing. They control assembly members. I'm talking about here, I'll give you a perfect example. Out here in California, Gavin Newsom ran on Medicare for all. They got Medicare for all the way through the lower house, through the House. They got it through the Senate. For some reason, it still didn't get passed. You know why? Because all they have to do is get through to a couple of the members and they can stop all that stuff. The same way which everybody was complaining about the whole Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema, the whole rotating villain thing. The only thing about it is those two stick out and everybody knows. But how many other ones do you not realize are some of those rotating villains? There are plenty more. And that's the thing. They get you sucked in on these one or two, and you don't realize how many of the rest of them are just as bad, if not worse. AOC and the squad are right there with them. And so it's not only on that level. You got to remember, it's not like corporations are like, oh, well, we only look on the national level. We got to remember, Boeing is in how many different states? These corporations go throughout multiple states. So if you're in this state and you're dealing with this group of legislators who are giving you problems, a lot of these issues are the same issues which go throughout the different states. So all it is, okay, well, maybe John Deere might be the one who stomps out these Congress people on this. On this state, it's this. In this state, it's Blue Cross Blue Shield. Well, in this state, it's Kaiser. Well, in this state, it's St. Jude's. It's the same thing. If it's for the pharmaceutical industry, there's pharmaceutical companies throughout all these different states who knock you down on all these different issues throughout all 50 states. So they're still able to get you on the local and state levels, because you got to remember, these states are not just all sitting in DC and only affecting DC. Much can be done there. That's where the system can be changed as per the Constitution. You're not changing any of these systems, because when you get to the state level, it's even easier to buy you off because you don't make nothing. Yeah, says Choosy Heretic says, even if we could get them to stop lying and stop waging war on us and start doing nice things for us, there's still the problem of justice for what they've already done. Yeah, that's a whole another can of worms. That is a whole, yeah, exactly. The state was made for that. They know how to micro target into states. That's not hard to do. I mean, how do you think these politicians make it to the national level? Because they've been micro-targeted to continue to rise up or to not make it up. I mean, if they're paying out all this money in advertisement to run the same commercials over and over, you don't think that they have extra money to, follow up on every politician, to follow up on who's going to be a threat, who's about to be a threat? When you have an economy which is full of people who are cash strapped, it doesn't get hard to start controlling these things, even on these smaller levels. Guess Chris is having some major computer problems, so we'll just keep on rocking with this. If you guys want me to bring up a topic, you guys got any questions, please just go ahead and ask me. The answers are getting obvious. Radical localization is super close with neighbors, because you're going to need to trust a friend when you're physical back. Yeah, I agree, Oz. You got to start confiding within each other. And I know this is going to seem like the less logical thing to do, but pulling back from the system is more effective than trying to engage in the system. Exactly. Controlled opposition. They know how to get to about anybody. I mean, think about it. You know how many of us have maybe a mother, maybe a sister, wife, husband, whoever, who might be sick. And you know that they're not able to pay these medical bills. Corporation comes in and they are, well, you're the comptroller. Make sure that this doesn't happen and we can take care of that. This is how easy it is because this system has been set up to exploit. And these people have been doing it for so freaking long. It's not a thing for them to micro target into all these different areas. Shawarma isn't much of a leader. She basically said she'd vote Biden if Trump runs again, because that's what they all do. That right there, I believe, goes into the mental fog this country has into being forced into false dichotomies. You either do X or you do Y. Either vote for Biden or you vote for Trump. You either vote for Hillary or you vote for Trump. Sometimes you can be like, I'm not doing either one. Y'all can kiss my ass. Believe it or not, one of the things which gets elites more than anything is embarrassment. They don't like to be embarrassed. If you start having elections where hardly anybody even shows up, that's an embarrassment. Because now the media has to cover why come the country has gotten to the point where they say, you know what, it doesn't even matter. Nothing that we can do. If they start seeing that, it starts showing that this experiment isn't working. That basically we're living in a false form of feudalism. At this point now, most of them are just kings, queens, dukes, earls. And that's how the system is really running on. But every time you go and vote, you give the false illusion that you are making a difference in this process, and you're not. And they're able to go run that on the media as if this is what the people want, even though we all know it's not what the people want. But that's what it looks like because people say, well, I got to choose this one or that one, not knowing that all of these people's strings are being pulled by the same politicians. You guys realize that the Democrats and the Republicans both were being funded by the Koch brothers? You guys realize that a lot of them are being both funded by Big Pharma? And now, more and more, a lot of them are being funded both by Big Tech. You know how many of them are being both funded by the banks and by Wall Street? That's the reason why they spend most of their time fundraising. That's the reason why you can't get into politics unless you normally have a decent, healthy sum of money or a donor, because this is a money game. I mean, not disagreeing, it's just also true that more are waking up to this truth. I hope they are waking up to this truth. But the problem is, if you look at the demographics, and I'm just talking about age-wise of our population, America in general is an older population. More older people have more of the wealth. More older people have more control over the direction of the system. So until you start getting into the point of waking up boomers, which good luck, and you start waking up more Gen X, good luck, you're always going to keep falling back into these problems because they are the ones who keep falling for this shit. They are the ones who are still, I listen to both sides and listen to Fox News and then listen to CNN and think that's listening to everybody. It's not listening to everybody. Let's see, I'm going to read that one real quick. On the bright side, there's a lot less arguing going on about whether it's actually fascism or not. I always look like a bright side. Well, What it is now is they're telling you that it's not fascism. Now, what I see honestly is you have more people who are asking for fascism. You have more people who are asking for the government to be authoritarians. That's the difference in what I see right now. Let's see. Which leads to wonder if desegregation was bad for blacks economically. It's a good thought experiment. That is a very great thought experiment. Let me hop in and say hello to my mom. Hey, mom, glad you tuned in tonight. Hopefully, all is going well there. But to go back to SM's comments, if things are not economically improving, then you'd have to say that they're worse off. If you look at just on every statistics, infant mortality rate has risen, specifically in the Black community. Crime rates have risen in the Black community. Household wealth that's been retained and kept has risen in the Black community. Do we have some outliers where you have more Black people who are by numbers having homes and degrees and different things like that? Yes. But if you start looking at these numbers by per capita and start comparing these numbers, you're going to start seeing that in almost every different category, things are statistically worse off for the Black community. Kelly says bars on windows are the entire building, is raised for gentrification, and are you out of the home? Let me catch up some of these. Yep, Mama Massey's in the chat. Yes, exactly. The queen is here. Or technically, I'm always kind of weird about that term queen when I look back to what it was used for in early Old English. A lot of times, believe it or not, queen was used as a very derogatory term. So I often call women princesses because it's more honorable. Let's see. Behind. Oh, thank you, Wesley. Thank you, sir. Yes, she did. Oh, at least one of us is good. I'm just playing, Mama. As you ain't fooling around, buddy. Oh, is Chris able to figure it out? Let's see. Oh, are we back, Chris?
All right, I hope so, man. Sorry about that, man. I don't know what the hell's going on. I guess they didn't like my rant from last week.
I don't know. Maybe they're trying to keep you out. SD, thank you. I try. I do. Believe it or not, for every show, I normally do a lot of studying.
You got mom in here?
Yeah, mom is in here.
What's
I do
up,
a
mom?
lot of studying, trying to prep myself, and I've done a lot of studying over the years anyway, but I always try to refresh myself so I can always stay up on the different topics and help for more engaging conversation. SM brought up about, are we basically in a better situation as far as the Black community in particular after King, or in the King era as opposed to right now? So your thoughts on it, sir? Chris? Uh-oh, guess we lost him again. Oh man, got coffee on my finger, so it's not messing up my scrolling. Yes, education does run in the family, believe it or not. My mom is an educator. My aunt's an educator. I went to school to be an educator, just didn't finish. But the education never ends with me. Always trying to learn new things. Let's see. I'll ask. Let me put this on the screen since I haven't. And thank you for coming in here, Beamworthy. Haven't saw you. Welcome to the show. Says I think people should have to get a certain score or some kind of IQ test to be able to vote. Maybe it's funny that you would bring that up. I have an old video that I did about that. Let me go back to that. Let me see. It's not very long, so I'm pretty sure that I can pull that up. it was talking about voting being a skill. And I still hold to that earlier video. Let me find it. It's kind of far down here. Which I do need to go. I think I do need to bring up more of psychological underpinnings of some thought exercises. Let's see. So bear with me one second while I pull this up on the screen. Since you brought that up, I'm going to show this video. Guys, don't crack on me too much for I look a little I think I look a little frail in that in this picture in this older video. But this is some I guess some throwback political matrix. It's called Voting is a Skill. Are you good at it? Here we go.
In this video, I wanted to talk to you guys about voting. Voting just in general. I know in this day and age, a lot of people push for the fact of always voting, and that's what we should do, especially people of color, because of how much they had to sacrifice to be able to get the vote, and how many others who maybe not been of color who were there in that fight to help get those rights. But I want to balance the idea of just everyone should vote versus the way Socrates felt about voting.
I guess let me pause that real quick and read it. Where is it? Which do I have this? Okay.
Socrates.
Pull that back. And I guess it says the man who persuades you to lend him money or goods and then keeps them is without doubt a rogue. But the much greatest rogue of all is the man who has guiled his city into the belief that he is fit to direct it. And that's what I like to talk about, as far as a lot of these politicians trick us into believing that they have our best interests at heart and that they are going to do right by us. And so much of, especially the voting population, is stuck into this. And I know plenty of people who they could tell you everything about all 32 NBA teams and all the trades and who scored this and that and remember games from how long ago, but can't tell you 10 things about the politician they voted for. That's a problem. So let me go back in.
Socrates believed that, yes, we should have a very engaged population and we should vote. But I fear one of his biggest worries is what has happened instead. Socrates made the argument that the population should be an educated population when going into the ballot box. In this day and age, many people feel that they are educated. At least educated, they believe that they're educated on the issues. Sadly, that's not actually what's going on. I actually fear that there are far more people who are completely in the dark about many things that are going on. I read a tweet from a lady earlier today, which said, I don't know who Representative Karen Bass is. I'm from California, and I don't live under a rock. Well, if you're a politician from California, if you live in California and you have the head of the Congressional Black Caucus living in your state, and they've been an elected official for at least 15 years, you're not quite as on top or as engaged as you think that you are. But the problem is most people believe that they are completely engaged, and that's where the problem comes in. Socrates made the I guess, example of comparing. You have the doctor and you have the sweet maker, and while the doctor is there talking to the people, telling them, I have these goodies, I have cakes, I have all these wonderful things that you're going to enjoy. But the doctor, yeah, he might be able to give you some help, but you're going to be uncomfortable real soon. He's going to prick you. It's going to hurt. It's going to be uncomfortable. It may cost you money. And so he defines his choice, or that candidate defines their choice as the better option because they give you all the sweets and the goodies up front. And it does attract and trick and fool a lot of people, just like what you see in politics today. You see a lot of people who are saying a lot of words, but there's no content behind it. There's no substance. And the problem is when you don't have an engaged population, when you don't have an educated voter base, they don't know any better. And they will go and choose the sweet maker over the doctor who's better for them. It's the same thing with another analogy that he made as far as sailors. If you want your ship to be, I guess, sailed, and you want to have a staff which is adequate, you're going to go for a ship full of mariners over hiring a bunch of lawyers. It only makes sense that you go and get people who are the most qualified for the position. The problem with this day and age is a lot of times some of the people who look like mariners are not mariners, and they're not steering you anywhere. That is why Socrates believed that we have to have a very engaged voter base. He believed that voting is not only a responsibility or a right. He believed voting is a skill that you have to train. And how you train that skill is by acquiring knowledge. The kind of knowledge which you need to acquire, in my opinion, is, for one, the policies. Which policies do you support? You know, like we talked about in the previous video with Descartes, which beliefs are most core to you? Are you going to fight for those beliefs? Which beliefs have you said you care about, but when it really comes down to it, you don't really want to do actually anything for it. It just sounds good. Don't lie to yourself. If there are things which you've always told yourself you really care about and you don't, it's freeing to at least be honest with yourself. And I believe that a lot more people respect you. I've said it myself. I don't like any kind of a racist, but I would rather a racist who lets me know right there to my face than the one that I always have to wonder about. I got a little off topic with that comment there, but you get where I'm going.
And I guess you guys get the point there. What I was talking about is voting is a skill, and we have to be engaged, understand and pay attention to what we're voting for. And that's the reason why, and I guess now I would add on to my points there is you also need to understand who is funding your politician, not only just the viewpoints. If you don't understand who's funding your politician or understand some of the things which make up their understanding, their belief system of what's core and important to them, it's harder to make those determinations and understandings of what they might do later on in their voting. And that's when it comes into voting education. Are we back? Sound check, sound track.
Yeah, I can hear you now. I mean, I could hear you before. Can you hear me all right? Do I sound
Yeah,
all
I
right?
hear you. Yeah, you got a
All
little bit of a delay, but you're good. I guess since I've been running my mouth quite a bit, would
No,
you
go
like
ahead,
to
man.
hop-
You
Okay.
keep going. I'll just jump in.
Okay. I guess I will hop onto this question real quick. It's or comment. It says by making info and debates more neutral, it helps already. Their propaganda cannot face the disinfectant sunlight of any reasonable, focused and sharp person confronting them with the discrepancies. Just like I believe that any debate that you should have should be done on public television, not on any major network. It also should be done without an audience. If you have an audience, people like they always talk about people respond to was it read the room. If you have people who are good at that, they'll know how to adjust their tone. It's better for them to just say what they really think and feel without an audience there who's going to cringe or cheer or boo, so you can hear them completely out what they're going to say. And that's the reason why I feel that you should they should have these in long form and everything should be live, no delays. That way, you say what you really feel and let the people be able to judge it. Also, there needs to be the formatting of questions instead of just having some person from ABC or MSNBC or Fox News or whatever. What needs to be done is you need to have a wide range of people from many sources asking different questions to test you on a whole battery of things which you're going to weigh in on.
And you also need other non-rich people to ask, like real down-to-earth, questions that are, necessary to our day-to-day, right? Like, what are you going to do about the gas? What you're going to do about food, things like that, because a lot of these people don't even go to the store themselves. They probably don't even remember the last time they actually pushed a shopping cart, put some groceries in it, and paid for it themselves. Like everything is done by somebody else. They're so unaffected. So if what you're describing would be the way it should work, unfortunately, that's not the way it does work.
Correct.
And to your comment about the crowds, 100% there doesn't need to be a crowd, because as soon as you say something, you hear a little giggle or they start clapping for you, you already know what road to go down to keep them in the palm of your hand. And most times politicians are honest. They'll be even less honest at that point in time. Or if you are going to have a crowd, let it actually be the citizens and not just padded with your political team, because very often who's there? It's the people who gets the tickets, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, if they're going to do crowds, then it can't be this, let's go on ahead and vet the crowd, because that's what a lot of them do. They decide, oh, well, are you on my mailing list? Oh, okay, you're on my mailing list, and I can tell you donated to the Democratic Party. So, okay, you get to come in. Instead of just, random people, you just pull in anybody who's walking down the street and let them come in and ask some questions. It's going to turn a little bit different.
Or you actually go to the neighborhood and where the debate is, right? If you're having it in Los Angeles, then you go to the people in that community, say, hey, you get to come in here. Yes. And also that's probably the better way. I saw that comment too by SM.
Yeah.
Trump is very good at reading his audience, but his audience too is cooked, right?
Yeah,
the black
of course.
Trump guy.
Hillary. Well, you're talking about more like campaign rallies. That you can't control. But as far as debates, like I noticed something that who said that? Salgado. Salgado said 1 year terms and no re-elections. I would like that typically, but the problem is it takes so long to get anything approved by the way the process is set up that you would not get anything done. You just wouldn't, because
I say
everybody. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say you extend the length of time for the House members, take it from 2 years to maybe 4. Senators limit that to 5, and go from there. 4 years for the president is okay.
Or just do everybody does 4 years.
Yeah, either or. I mean, if you wanted to keep the separation between the House and the Senate, but
no, I say put them all on the same cycle. Put them all on the same cycle. All 4. Put the House, Congress, and Senate. So if you want a clean house, you literally can be like, everybody's gone, and it also makes it more unpredictable because if you don't deliver, everybody can be gone. There's no okay. Well, I can sit back and the next time around. No. There ain't gonna be the next time around because you can instantly go from being the majority to being in the minority, and only a handful of you next time around.
And the other thing that would help with is actually getting a like-minded team into their political party. Oh yeah, absolutely. And Gray Walker had a good comment too somewhere in there.
I'm a little behind, so let me catch up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
But Gray Walker said to need to essentially rewrite the Constitution, right?
Yep.
I fully agree with that. The one we have now, that shit don't work. Burn that shit. Burn it, roll it. Break your buds up on it, twist it up, roll it, whatever you gotta do. But yeah, what is written now doesn't work. I mean, I guess you could keep some of the things in there, but for the most part, it has to be rewritten for the 21st century. I think it's kind of old, not kind of. That shit is old as fuck. And we need something else because it's clearly not working.
Or even this works. What Here Goes says here, no more elections, just a random lottery draft for every position top down and make them temporary. Believe it or not, in ancient Greece or Sparta, that's what they used to do for their Senate. It was a lottery. You were, and they even did that in Rome to a degree. You were just slotted. Oh, it's your turn. Now you're senator. And that's just how it worked, almost like jury duty. And so it's a lot more. I mean, the problem is these people, if you leave something one way for long enough, they always find a way to corrupt it. Exactly, Barry. It took the words right out of my mouth. They'll rig it too. They will rig that too. And that's the problem with a lot of these people. If you leave a system stagnant, it's the same thing. I used to work corrections. I don't know who knows that or doesn't know that.
Oh, you was police?
Yeah, I used to work corrections. Not actually. I was the way my county was set up. The way my county was set up is we were under the sheriff's department.
I was going to say you was with the sheriff.
Yeah, and so if you technically, because I was actually juvenile detention officer, and so, but juvenile could go back and forth, and sometimes when they needed help, go work on the adult side. But I primarily work juvenile. So when you come in juvenile, you're technically not a part of the sheriff's department, but if you get hired on the adult correction side, you are part of the sheriff's department. When you would leave people in their rooms long enough, you know what they do? They just start figuring stuff out. This officer, I can catch them slipping because they don't pay attention to this. This officer watches that. This is the codes which they use, the call signs. And they start figuring things out. It's the same thing, as far as people breakouts and escapes and things. That's the longer somebody's sitting there thinking, they're able to figure out a stagnant system. FBI. What? Put that back up, Chris. Says we should vote on individual issues, not people. Keep the public servants as functionary measures by result. Yeah, you could have a system where you just bring up measures and just vote. That could be more effective and then you could, another thing I would do is make voting incentive based. If voting was incentive based, as far as like, for every vote that each person did, I'm talking about every citizen, you got some kind of a bonus or a raise. If everybody knew, oh man, I'm definitely gonna get home to vote, because if I don't vote, I'm not gonna get my check. Everybody be lined up to vote. And then if you have a country of 330 million people, and let's say, okay, let's factor out kids. Let's say that puts us at, say, what, 250 million. 250 million people, you're going to have something like a 98, 99% voting rate because everybody's going to want that check. And then if you have 250 million people who are voting, it makes it a lot harder to corrupt all of these people. Just my thoughts.
No, I feel you. I do like that idea of voting on the ideas, and then yeah, that makes a little more sense. But at the end of the day, we can't be afraid of changing the system, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're all familiar, and I know change is scary. But at the end of the day, sometimes you do have to like throw shit out and replace it, because the way it's working now, it's like ever since 9/11, really, we've been on fast forward to Shitsville, and we were already kind of in Shitsville. We just going like deeper into the intestine, you know, and it doesn't make sense. But something has to be done.
Like, look at Shadow's comment here. It says the problem with democracy and the republic both is the majority of the population do not have any principles or conviction. Majority rule is terrible. It can be depending on what it is.
Well, you know, here's the thing with majority rule. If there was majority rule, Marcus, me and you might not even be sitting here doing this right now. We might be doing something totally different. So, well, you know, there is.
Well, think majority rule kept slavery. Majority rule kept segregation. Majority rule put redlining in. Majority rule sent us to Iraq. Majority rule has done a lot of negative things. So, I mean, you know, that's the thing. There's no perfect system. Like, that's what I tell people. A lot of people will think, well, it's just a capitalism versus X. For one, there's even different forms of capitalism, just like there's different forms of being a leftist. You do have what's called laissez-faire capitalism, where that's unregulated. But if it's a form of regulation in it, then it's not necessarily inherently evil. I mean, would you guys say that that's wrong if I came up with an idea to make T-shirts and I wanted to sell my T-shirts? Is that wrong? Am I exploiting anybody if I bought the T-shirts and I'm just selling them and it's only me? I mean, I'm not hiring anywhere. I don't have any workers, so you can't say that I'm, you know, oh, well, he's paying his workers badly. You know, so I'm saying if you just, I mean, so some people take the approach that all capitalism is the evil and not vetting out what exactly capitalism is. All of these things are tools, and everything is a tool. That's how I look at it. And so, is a hammer necessarily good or bad? No, a hammer can be used to build a house, or a hammer can be used to kill. It's all how you use these different tools. The same with capitalism, socialism, communism, all of that.
You know, the other thing I want to add, Marcus, is that you know, a lot of time maybe we think a little too big, right? And we think like this big, monstrous central government. Maybe if we shrunk that down and gave more power to, I know this is going to sound funny considering the past, but maybe if you give more power to the states, but not power to like subjugate people, not no dumb shit like that. But, you know, like for instance, if your state wants to legalize drugs, they should be able to do so without having to go to DC and clearing it with them. You know what I'm saying? And look, the issues here in South Florida are not going to be the same issues in New Mexico, right? It's not going to be the same issues in LA. So it really should be based, you know, it should be focused on your, okay, yeah, correct. She's taking the shortcut. Yes. Local.
Yes, Shadow made a couple of good points there. I'll put this one up first. Capitalism versus socialism is a false dichotomy. Left-right is a false dichotomy. Markets are not inherently evil. The state actually is. And right there, so on the nose there, Shadow. A lot of people try to go into these systems like, were there monarchies that were Not evil? Yes, there were plenty. But were there monarchies which were absolutely evil incarnate? Of course. It's just like, well, and well, one, like people say communism. There's actually, let's dead this argument, especially, well, as far as this is, our perspective on it, because I know Chris is with me.
Get it.
There is no actual communism. There's never, you have not seen a communist government ever. Ever. And the people say, well, the communists, no, that's not communist. None of these nations have ever been communists. None of them have been. Not by the true understanding and definitions of communism. Communism actually branches out from Epicureanism. Epicureanism is about complete equality. None of these people have had complete equality. In fact, you couldn't even run a government on communism or complete equality. You know why? Because somebody has to be the leader, right? Somebody has to step up and make overall decisions, especially if another nation is coming against you, say, in war. Then how do you guys going to all get 330 million people all together and you guys are going to decide what you're going to do? It's impossible to do it. So some forms of government are not even real forms of government that we pretend that they are. For instance, what China actually is China is an authoritarian fascist government. That's what it is. Most governments in the world are actually fascist governments, believe it or not. The United States included. Most of them are authoritarian fascism. And what is a fascist? Combination, it's authoritarianism and combination between state and corporations. That's what most of them are. The democracy part is a complete and total illusion in most cases.
It's it's just something to keep us in line,
Mm-hmm. So you can run around and say, no, I'm a this and I'm a that and I'm a whatever. It's just like how Democrats now are. Bernie was running around calling himself a democratic socialist when it's very obvious Bernie is just a Democrat. Period. He is not a democratic socialist in any kind of way. In fact, even if he would have stopped a step before that and said he was a social democrat, I could kind of give him that, maybe. But a democratic socialist, no, you are not. And that's because in civics, we're not taught what any of these terms actually even mean. So people just run around calling themselves stuff that they don't even understand. Just like I've heard people say, I'm an anarcho-socialist. Most people don't know what an actual anarchist is to say that they're anarchists. Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say, I don't even know what some of those terms, I don't even pretend to know what they are.
I studied that in college,
Yeah, some of them I don't even know, and a lot of them just sound like, you're just trying too hard to be different, and it's like, whatever. Because at the end of the day, they all kind of have the same belief systems one way or the other, or they oppose same things as the other groups.
China is too fascist, and I'll tell you, all these corporations are not directly beholden to the government. Huawei is not beholden directly to the government. There is a partnership with the government, just like TikTok, just like a lot of these corporations, just like the new tech thing. Do they have to do a portion of what the government says? Yes, but these are private companies, so that still falls up under fascism. If they were completely owned and run and everything operated by the state, then that would be different, but they're not. They are private.
I'm reading Shadow's comment.
Which one? All governments?
No, the last one that we says
let me catch up. But he knows what it means.
Yeah, I know he knows.
He knows what it means, but a lot of these people don't. They don't have to divide their government to be, a private company. But at the same time, they're not doing everything with the company. With the country. That's where the authoritarian part comes in, because they're forced to not step out of line. In Russia, the Russian companies don't defy their government either. And also in America, for the most part, they don't defy the government. If they defy the government enough, then they start losing licensing and they will not be a business for very long. The only difference is in some other countries, you'll get thrown into a prison cell for not following. Whereas here, they'll just bring the FBI in and start hitting you on code violations till they completely dismantle you. Regardless, most countries, major corporations don't outright defy the government. They're allowed to get away with stuff. For instance, there's plenty of major companies that pay off to dump illegal things. But if the government ever decided, no, we're going to crack down on it, they would, and there wouldn't be nothing they could do about it.
A larger point I'd like to make on this topic is that people have to change their value systems. If you continue to put value in the things that we put value in, the people who we call leaders are going to see that, and they're going to exploit it as they currently do. There's a lot of psychological components too, because we're in a position where if you don't have certain items, right, mainly material things, even though some of these things are needs too, but if you don't have the kind of car you want, you feel away. If you don't have the type of house you want or a living situation you want, you feel away. And you can have something modest and something nice, and you could still feel like inadequate. So once we can get over those feelings of inadequacy, as it relates to material things, money, shit like that, the people who control us are forever going to have control because they know exactly how to manipulate us based on what we value. I don't know if that made sense, but it kind of did in my head.
Yeah, authoritarianism is tech class fascism, and Chinese method are instances of authoritarianism. They do not equate. The reason why they are, if you believe that these super multi-billion-dollar corporations are completely at the whim of their government, then you don't really know what's going on in China that well. I'm sorry to say it that way, but they are not. It's not like Saudi Arabia. They don't have that kind of control, because when you get to certain levels like that, you don't think that they have their own literal security. It's not like they're going to run a whole unit of the Chinese army into these corporations to fight against them, because some of these corporations have that level of wealth. It's not old school China that we're thinking of from the 70s or 80s. It's just China of the 2020s, where there's plenty of multi-billion-dollar companies which just have as much power as they do here in the States to push back against their government. We can't fall into the narrative of, that China is this completely authoritarian, totalitarian. It's not. Most of these nations it's not very much different than what goes on here in the United States, in all honesty. But China controls them through the banks. But China, all their money is not held in Chinese banks. Some of their money is held in South Korean banks. Some of their money is held in United States banks. Some of their money is held in UK banks. All their money is not held in China. That's the reason why they're not controlled solely by China. Sorry, it's a friendly debate, just a friendly debate. Got mad love for Oz out there. Oz is very, very bright, very sharp.
Oh yeah, you can see that.
I see Oz in plenty of the chats. Oz knows what Oz is talking about.
Yeah, I don't know if he's a man or a woman. I was gonna say he knows his shit, but then
I'm not sure. Oz, I guess, could you clarify? I think Oz is a male. Only the yuan matters within the border. True, I'll give you that. Only the yuan matters within the borders. But it's kind of like the same thing with the what we're finding out with the U.S. trying to shut down Russia's money. Well, you can't shut down all these billionaires' money because they don't keep all their money in rubles.
I'm laughing at Bulla's comment.
You want you want is the loneliest number. I know you remember that, don't you?
Yeah, Bulla's his sense of humor is quite sharp.
Oh yeah.
He's definitely not in the spoon drawer.
No, I don't think you're full of nothing. I honestly love the sharp. I honestly like to have a nice back and forth sometimes with somebody I consider very very intelligent and sharp. So I think it only helps me sharpen. Actually, well, I'm wondering. It says tech oligarchs all got smashed. Putin is delighted.
I think he just misspelled up.
No, I know they meant tech. Tech oligarchs all got smashed. Putin is delighted, but at the same time, I honestly feel Putin is kind of losing I think he's kind of losing a little bit because the West is so much more powerful on the tech front. They're not able with the proper to get their version of what's going on. Because I love to listen to news from many different sources. Lately, I've been listening to a lot of different Indian news because they've been the only ones that's big enough that they haven't gotten shut down, and they're the next closest to Russia, Ukraine. And so I've been listening to a lot of them, and I feel the Russian perspective is hard to hear anybody who's speaking from the Russian perspective. So that's why I listen to a lot of them.
And also too, it's hard to tell if they're being honest in terms of are they afraid of their government? So are they just saying certain things? Are they going to lose their jobs? So you don't really know. I mean, that goes for a lot of things, but at least here you can look certain people up and tell, like, okay, I know why General so-and-so is saying something. Look, I could be getting that Saturday Night
Live. Stupid Uncle Warren. Well, my perspective, what I've seen going with Putin and Russia is Putin decided he did kind of like the old prison mentality. When you first go into prison, you go and knock out the biggest guy in the yard. And that way, once you knock him out, you can try to become the big fish on the block. That's what he did. When he got into power, he knocked out the most powerful, politically connected oligarchs and elites there, and then locked up, assassinated the next group who were around them, and then told the rest, you can make all the money you want on this side, but do not interfere with the politics of anything. So you can make your money over there, but politics, this is my lane. And so as long as you don't have to be with me, just don't cross me or push back against me. And you can do your own thing on the side. Ooh, good. Splitting the ruble from tech dollar and euro has allowed Russia to flourish, and the EU is over very sad. But I agree with that. I think that the West has really overplayed their hand in the situation, and only the media is covering it up to how bad the situation is for the West. And I'm talking about more so the European West than America. I think that, especially for instance, like Germany and France and those countries are going to really start. We're going to start seeing them really hit the fritzes soon. I've also seen some stuff. I got to confirm it, but in China, the zero COVID thing is kind of turned into a little bit of a disaster from what I'm hearing. So, but haven't verified that yet, so don't quote me on it.
Oh, that's still a thing. I forgot all about that stuff.
Oh, in China, they're cracking down hard on the whole COVID.
No, I mean, I saw that. I was just saying, making a comment, because if you do watch any of the network news, that they don't even mention it anymore. So.
Well, because
it's funny in the papers though, they are like at work. I go and we have an assortment of papers, in the break room. In the newspapers, it's still there, but anything I've seen on on the web, because I don't have Cable. But anything I've seen on the web, it's all Russia.
Yeah.
But going into, but what Hamza said, China really is doing wild shit with COVID. I was reading something.
Yeah, some real wild shit. I wanted to read this one real quick so I can get myself caught up with the comments. India actually are real tight with Russia since they were independent. Yeah, India has a good vantage point to be able to see what's going on with Russia, also able to see what's going on with China. And right now, I've been hearing a lot of crazy stuff with Pakistan and Sri Lanka too. So,
speaking of which, did you see what happened to Imran Khan?
Oh yeah, I've been following that situation. So yeah, go ahead and fill people in if they're not familiar.
Look, he just gave a speech not too long ago, just basically telling the West, you're telling us, I'm paraphrasing or I'm Chris phrasing. Basically, they wanted Imran Khan to cancel Russia, and he said, and he brought up, he mentioned all of the hypocrisy in that position, in what they were trying to get Pakistan to do. With that being said, I guess their parliament had a vote today, or maybe it was yesterday. But anyway, he lost and he's out. But it just seems funny that he went against the West very publicly, very strongly, and now all of a sudden his government had a vote and he's out of there. I think if you look, I don't think any Pakistan president served an actual full term, right? So,
no, they got a very volatile situation going on over there.
Seriously, but given what we know, their proximity to American intelligence, I wouldn't be surprised if when we look deeper into that situation, we'll find out that the United States had its nasty little fingers in that situation too.
Yeah, and I would tell Baba Yaga, Patrick Lancaster, I am now subscribed. Thank you. Yeah, I always love to check as many outside of the West sources as I can.
Hamza, that's my larger point too, is that it's not as if Khan was totally detested by a lot of the country. He seemed from looking at it, right? It seemed as if he had quite a bit of support behind him, and the fact that this happened to the extent that it did, I mean, it was almost like a unanimous decision that he needed to go. Again, that's pass the smell test, as they used to say.
The Pen is ahead in voting France, supposedly. Do you know about this one? Le Pen is ahead in voting in France, supposedly.
Oh,
I have to dig into that. That's interesting.
I think whenever they do the polling, I think she's been ahead before, but I mean, I'm not too sure.
She normally loses her lead because I don't know,
because she's gonna say some dumb shit. Somebody on her team is gonna do some dumb shit. They're gonna say, "Oh, we should kill all Muslims."
Yep.
Or we should get rid of the Africans.
I'm waiting for her to say one of those two things.
It's gonna be one of those. It's something along those lines, and whatever. I'm not a fan of them either. I think they're other wrestlers. They're wrestlers too. You know what I'm saying? Khan got scored. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, and don't worry about any typing mistakes, because I know when you're in the chat, you're trying to type it in real fast. It's easy.
And Hamza, like you said, Hamza just made another comment. The real reason they kicked him out is because he doesn't agree with their agendas. Correct. Because like I said, the last speech that I saw was sometime last week. I mean, he really dug into what the West was asking Pakistan to do as a country as it relates to Russia. And he went completely against it. In fact, he did the total opposite. He didn't just say no. He went and did what they didn't want him to do. And again, like I said, not too long after, he's out. It doesn't, something that, like I said, it's not right. And it requires, further looking into. But, with these brown, with the brown countries and shit, when we see governments do funny money shit, we kind of look, roll our eyes, and just like, oh well, you know, they're corrupt, and we keep it pushing. Let it be a European country. Oh my God. Like, oh my God, do you see what's happening in Greece? Oh my God. You know.
Oh wow, I'm so behind on comments. I'm sorry. I'm just reading a lot of comments tonight. Having fun with you guys. I'm trying to stay in this discussion.
He did
Oz
say
Whistles.
that. He did say that too.
Oz Whistles, without cheap Russian grain, oil, gas, Pakistan going to descend into chaos. A lot of places I feel are going to descend into chaos without it. And not only Russian grain. We got to remember Russia and Ukraine fund a lot of the grain and different things come out of those two countries. In fact, at my job, I received an order of tubes, and guess which country it had on it? Ukraine. So, I mean, even a big pump and boiler company like I work for gets products from Ukraine, all the way in California. So keep that in mind.
That's a long trip.
Yeah. Let's see. What does this say? Yes, exactly. Exactly. It definitely is. Even though most people don't know what that is. Shadow always talking above the class.
I know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shadow's a smart kid that you put in the back of the class because he don't stop.
No, he's the one that I make the teacher's aide, so I can go sneak out and go get a coffee and keep the class going.
Then you come back and it's Shadow's class. It's all decorated like how Shadow wants it. All these kids is cursing.
Well, imagine these with sunglasses instead. You can just come in there after a bender and just do this. You got it, Polly. Go on ahead.
Yep. Go ahead. It's not a bad thing either. You know what I'm saying? Because he knows his shit.
When I was in high school, my teacher used to do that with when we would do dissecting. they would leave me as a hey, go on ahead, Marcus. Go on ahead. Go take care of that. Yeah, show the other kids what you were doing. Yes, where'd that go? Oh shoot. I won't read it out loud because my mom was in here. So but,
is your mom still in the crowd? Tell her I said what's up. Hi mom.
It's probably a little too late for her over there. She might have hopped off. Yes, anarchy in the class. Speaking of animal illness, I heard that. Wow.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Real.
He's the one you put in the back of the class.
Yes. Well, if I put him in the back of the class and he's not engaged in class, next thing you know, they're back there doing whippets in the back of class. I can't have that happening. They're back, hey man, pass me that Sharpie. They be back there passing shots around in the back of my class. No, can't have that. You gotta put the sharp kids, gotta keep them occupied, because if you don't, then they turn into troublemakers. I know from experience. Mm-hmm. Or they do like me and go and sleep.
Speaking of shot, I mean, you know, it's not the best segue, but you know, this was the anniversary of King, you know, being killed. Did you already touch on that?
Oh, on what?
I said, did you already touch on the anniversary of King's death?
I didn't bring up that it was the anniversary of it, but we did talk a little bit. We'll talk a lot of bit about it, but well, yeah, you can go in some of your thoughts.
No, I tell you, like the whole burning house thing, that's very interesting to me. You know, whether or not he integrated his people to a burning house. You know, they fought for civil rights. You know, the bill was inevitably passed. What did that mean for the people who followed him? Do we think that was the best thing looking back? I mean, we obviously have the benefit of hindsight. Do you think that maybe it would have been better without it?
Do I feel it would have been better without it? I look at it at this point. We basically traded. I'll say we traded a form of acceptance to, I would say, to the majority white population and traded away any possibility of gains in the economic side. That's what I would say. I mean, I guess to sum it up in short, sorry. To sum it up in short, I feel, yeah, integration, we gained, and I feel like as far as most of the other minority groups, I don't feel that we didn't already have that, a degree of acceptance and camaraderie and being able to get along and deal. I just feel like all it did was allowed it for mainstream white population and forced maybe a degree of racism as far as in the physical form to kind of die down. No more. It made it so that white people were more aware of like hangings and brutal things like that, and because they were able to see it, it decreased it and it made it less acceptable. But I don't think it changed the racist views and mentalities that were put throughout the system. They were like, and it led some people to, well, at least we're not killing you guys anymore. So at least you should be happy. At least you're able to get a job. Be happy. Doesn't matter if you're getting paid less. What's up? What's up, Prop?
Yeah, Prop. What's up, man? Damn, you just mentioned some jobs. I think it took away some level of like self-reliance, right? And you're now part of the system, and you think that and you get the feeling like, okay, we're in this system, we're able to participate, et cetera, et cetera. Now we can just somewhat rely on the government to do whatever it is we think that they could do for us at that time. But at the same time, I just wonder if we were left to our own devices and didn't bother to push towards that. If we didn't push towards, equality as it stands under the United States government, instead of like trying to just build our own nation, not necessarily like fly a flag and have land, but just stick to ourselves. You know what I'm saying? I wonder what we could have come up with on our own, because as I see it, we integrated into the system and the outcomes haven't really got much better. Again, some of the physical violence stopped, but other than that, if you look at all the statistics, I mean, we're at the bottom of almost every goddamn thing that's not good.
Well, I don't think it necessarily bred more of a reliance, not the civil rights or king. The more reliance on government, I would say that came later on, when we start having mass incarceration. That led to more self-reliance on government, because before we had a society, just in general, Black, white, Latino, Asian, whatever. It was men for the most part brought home, were the ones who did most of the working. Women were at home. Now that the men are out of the home, it forced women to try to find an income some kind of way. And I feel like it led to it. I feel that it took the money out of the community because what happens is, say you have a community and let's say 90% of the people want all the same and 10% are separate. When that 10% is together, they're able to kind of do more business with each other and start to build as a smaller group. Once they're isolated, that community is not able to grow as a whole, and everybody becomes more individuals. Just like, I think that in turn, you see that even on like sports teams where you'll see a Black kid where they want to be by themselves and just be the star instead of being a team player, because the way we've been shown to have success is to separate and not be together.
Because I think of something like the first thing that comes to mind, right? Black Wall Street.
Yeah.
I think about that, and then, we do everything we can to incorporate ourselves into this system and we haven't seen it since.
But another,
and there were many other instances of that. Like, I don't want to just limit. I just don't want to make it seem as if Black Wall Street is the only, in Oklahoma was the only place that they were thriving or, you know, doing things for themselves by themselves. There were other places around the country in which, you know, blacks were building up their own societies. And the sad part is it wasn't even necessarily the government who instructed the people to go tear those things down and commit all those massacres. That's the crazy part. It wasn't the government. In some cases, it was just the citizens in in and around that town or those cities that did that. So I guess if anything, the government should have done is just like, all right, just leave them people alone. If you put them, you know, we'll come for you. Short of that, I think maybe we should not have meant the dream to be like, oh, integration. Now we have Ketanji Brown.
But I felt it was a damned if you do, damned if you don't, regardless. Because if we stayed isolated, it's a whole lot easier to just take out that whole community and then bomb you down to nothing. And when I look at it like this, take for example the LGBTQ issue. A lot of people who will be like hardcore against LGBTQ, once somebody in their family comes out as that, then they tend to be more compassionate towards that issue. If you aren't around any black people and it's something happening way over there, you don't care about that community getting burned down because it's something over there. But when they started being around more and more people, they felt like that's not y'all can't go and y'all can't be just killing people like that. Just like I felt the Emmett Till type situation. It's the only reason why it had the reaction to be able to have the pushback it did is because you had a more integrated society where you had blacks and whites around. I mean, you can go back before that, and it was a practice to use black babies as gator bait. When they're separated, it's easy to turn you out of sight, out of mind. But if all of a sudden now you're cool with this one black guy, when you see that he's going through some crap, you're able to be more compassionate because now you see them as a person. But if they're over there off in their own world, you don't give a damn what happens to them a lot of times.
You know, I and to kind of describe what I'm thinking of, it's like the Hasidic community in New York and Brooklyn especially, right? You can't walk on that side of the street on certain times, right? They have their own ambulance system, they have their own fire department or police station. I don't know if they have all of those. I know they have one of them. But anyway, if you do something to one of them in that community, you deal with the entire community. It's not just like, damn.
But you're talking about a community that has power, though.
Well,
because you gotta remember, if you have a black, Latino, or even back in those days, an Asian community, no matter how strong the communities got, they couldn't push back against a white population. There's only one so-called minority group that was able to get power and be able to push back against the Anglo-Saxon structure. We know what that is. You get what I'm saying? It's different rules because you couldn't. Because all right, say something happened to one group of black people. They couldn't just be like, you know what, we're gonna go get our shit together and we're gonna ride on them. No. It didn't work that way. Because what happened, you look at the riots in Detroit and things like that. Black areas, for the most part, in the 60s and 70s, and you know what happened when they pushed back against unfair treatment of white mobs and stuff? then the
place. I mean, I'm thinking
the pushback came back harder.
I know you said it properly. Sometimes you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Again, from where we're sitting, it would be nice to see the alternative.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good luck, Shadow. It would be nice to see the alternative. You know what I'm saying? Because the way I see it is, they use King now for everything else other than black folks. I mean, I even saw Zelensky in one of his freaking one of his numerous appearances. He's even talking about King and the Dream, and I'm just like, what the fuck?
Man, Zelensky's using everything he possibly can. That dude started talking about. He started comparing 9/11. That dude has brought up every argument. I mean, he's went around to certain parts and like, and this is like I'm trying to remember what was the date. I can't remember it exactly, but what was it?
Look, as him said in the chat, he has a dream with 2 Nazis next to him.
Yeah, that dude, he's shameless. I mean, he used any tragedy he can think of, he used it.
I know.
So I mean, I don't. That dude, that's a whole nother show going into Zelensky himself. But I guess we're going ahead and get ready to wrap it up. I think we've hit all our topics for the night for the most part. Even though I kind of took us in a whole bunch of other different directions.
No, you straight, man. This shit over here wasn't working.
Oh, hey, it happens sometimes. I see. Plus, the party sounds like it's lit behind you anyway. So.
Oh yeah, they turned the volume up. You know, anytime they play that Wiz Khalifa, they tend to turn the volume up. And I had the window open because it was real nice.
I'm with that. Zelensky needs to just shut the fuck up.
Yeah, he does.
And hire a clown and everything become. Oh, well said. Well said. Zelensky didn't use the Holocaust. Yes, he did. He has used it.
Did
too.
he?
Yeah, he's used the Holocaust too. Yeah, that dude. That's what I'm saying. He'll use everything. That dude has no shame, and because the Jewish community pushed back against him. Israel really pushed back. They were like, whoa. Even though you're Jewish, bro, that's not cool. Because you guys know, for those who don't know or not, Hebrew Apologetics page, I follow a lot of what's going on. Times of Israel, Haaretz, what is it, I-24 News. I follow all those. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I see all the stuff that's going on out there. Yeah, he did, Baba Yaga. He did. Yeah, I was like, whoa, you really went there? Yeah, a lot of rabbis really they ain't like that at all. That's all I'm saying. And he hasn't brought it back up again.
You know he won't. You know, look, once they come in, give you that pow, you better relax, kid.
Anybody knows you deal with that group of people. That's the one group of people can nobody talk out of pocket. They come for you, and they clap hard. And so with that, and that always makes you wonder, how does 1% of the world's population got so much damn power?
Maybe that's something we should do a show about that.
Yeah, and that'll be our last show. We do that show.
They be like, yo, you see them dudes on the corner? They used to be on TV and shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they be like, oh yeah. You see them, or we have to go to. We have to do the whole show have to be on Patreon.
Yeah,
I might have to crack my Patreon open and plug it for like a couple months. Actually, you know what? By the time the show comes, they'll be like, you know what? Patreon is no longer up.
For real, they'll be like, Patreon is done.
They'll be like, hey, we through our spyware, we already know what he been researching. We already know what he about to say. So I've checked Odyssey and I've checked BitChute. I don't think that they'll go to the level I'll go, how deep I'll go.
I mean, BitChute is pretty rough though.
But I'm rougher. because I'll see a portion here, a portion there, a portion there. You'll get 3 hours of unadulterated, the whole from present all the way back as far as I can dig. And you know how I research, Chris.
Correct. And I was one of the people who was like, I don't mind BitChute. I know a lot of people were like, oh, it's right wing, etc., etc. There is a lot of right wing content that is prominent. Have you seen? Oh wow.
Again, I'm gonna have to look at that. Here goes. I don't know if you're following me on Twitter. It's at Real Marcus J Cage or at Marcus James Cage. You can send to either one of those, or if you want to email me, because I know sometimes Twitter will even stop you from emailing from sending the message DM. You can I'll just put my email in the chat just in case anybody's looking at this later. My email. This is for anybody also who wants to contact me who is not on any of these social medias. That's my my YouTube. I mean my email. So yeah, you can hit me there with anything.
I'm rougher, Marcus Cage. Marcus Rage. Kelly always slides one. Yo, Kelly and Bulla. Kelly and Bulla need the show.
Boy, they had a show together. That'll be brutal. I would.
Kelly need a show.
Man, trust me. I'm clicking subscribe on every episode of that.
Oh, instantly. Instant.
But I guess we need to get on out of here. Oh, tomorrow I will be on with JB. Kelly is my future ex-wife. I'll be on with JB. Make sure you guys check that out. That'd be I'm like, oh shoot, Revolutionary Blackout gonna have me back on again. But yeah, I look forward to that one. And those who are in the California area or LA area, Slow News Day is having a what was it? Let me look it up real quick. What it was called. Back up. They're having an event. Let me put it out there. It is. Good gracious, why come I can't find anything? I have too much crap going on my page. Let's find it.
So,
where is that?
Marcus, I saw that they're having the event. Let me ask you.
Oh, that's what it's called. Defeat the mandates coast to coast, which I'm gonna I'll be out there. Not sure exactly what time I'll be out there, but I know Steve will be out there. Pasta will be out there. Not sure who's all going to be there, but yeah, I will be out there at some point in the day. So if you guys are in the area and you want to come out and meet me, you can definitely meet me then.
Yeah, I'll be out there too, kicking it with Marcus. Yeah, right. I wish, but
yeah, right.
One day.
RZA's gonna be there. Then I'll try to get in touch with RZA. I'll try to get in touch with him if I can. Is anyone streaming? I know it'll definitely be on Slow News Day, if not on Convo Couch, or probably both. They normally like to team together on that kind of stuff. But yep, that's all I have for you all tonight. Thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you also for Sabby for being here earlier in the night. Always a pleasure to be able to sit down and talk with her. I will definitely isolate that. And so you guys will be able to have just the interview portion also. Much love, Marcus. Thank you, Oswald. So thank you for also. I would love to chit chat with you more and more. Fun discussion, definitely. Oh, RZA's from Compton. I didn't know that. So that means he's not that far from me. Probably have a in-person interview. That would be pretty cool. Yeah, I'm probably what 20 minutes. Oh shoot, not even that. 15 minutes from there. Oh yeah, referred to Albert Pike letter and Mazzini. Yeah, my Italian's gotten a little bit rusty, so I would explain to you guys what. Just remind me next time I'll go into what mafia actually stands for in Italian. But oh, and thank you, SM Dahman. I love all you guys. You definitely kept it a lively discussion and a lot of fun. See you guys tomorrow. Who will hop in there? Oh yeah, I forgot completely. We'll be having Talk of the Ages. Me and Jalen will be back. He's finally got a little bit of time, and so me and Jalen will be back with the show tomorrow evening. That'll be 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. And then the very next week, I'm going to have a very special guest. I don't know if you guys have heard of, what was it, Silk to Steel podcast by Carl Za. He is, I hope I'm saying this word right, Balinese. I think that's Balinese. He's from Bali, and he is going to. I'll be able to sit down with him, and we're going to go into all things China. So I've been waiting for that interview. It's definitely going to be a good one. If you guys want to check out some of his stuff, he has a YouTube channel, Carl Sa, and he's always doing spaces on Twitter. If you guys are on Twitter. So thank you, everybody, for joining us again, and you all have a wonderful night. And if it's not too late for you guys and you're going out partying, have fun.
Peace out, everybody. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Oh yeah, and one last thing. Thank you, Lefty News, because Independent Lefty News, we're streaming over there on their Rockfin. Thank you, everybody, also who's on Rockfin and watching us.
Everybody
much
over there,
love.
thank you guys. You guys always show us love. It's much appreciated.
All right, have a good night.